Morning. It's just Patrick and I today. DC's in first. Good to see you, DC. This is going to be a fun Friday show.
First down, protect the football. Be nice to score on defense again too. It certainly helped.
How about that? Keys to the game from Shane Beamer. Last night's Carolina call.
Early game. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette with you. A smaller crew than usual. Bill's still under the weather, and Jen is on the road up to Illinois visiting her mom. So, Patrick and I, how do you feel about the responsibility? I'm guessing, seeing that you're wearing your Washington football team polo this morning and seeing that somehow the football gods shined on you last night, that you're up for the challenge and feeling good.
Yeah, I watched the last basically quarter and couple minutes of the third quarter, and I had the live stream up while I was working and saw the missed kick, and I just turned the phone off. But I was watching on a phone, and it was kind of down, and I was looking kind of far away, and I was like, of course he missed it. Somebody asked me, one of the people working with me was like, is your kicker good? I said, no, he's terrible. He's been here forever, and he's never been challenged, and he should be. He always misses big kicks. And I turned the phone off, and then I got the alert, like the score alert, that we had won. And I was like, did it just hook in at the last second? Did I just completely miss the fact that he made it and didn't find out until this morning? I just told myself, I guess it just hooked in, and I was premature in turning the phone off. And this morning found out there was an offsides call, and he got another shot at it. Thank goodness he made it, because I was just so upset for probably about 30 minutes until I looked at my phone again and saw the score alert that we won. So, ridiculous game. I thought we threw the game away with 3.5 minutes left when Taylor Heineke threw an interception. All we had to do was milk the clock and somehow got the ball back. And what a roller coaster. It was a great football game. Super entertaining, but very stressful. Very stressful.
It reminded me of a different division altogether than the NFC East has been recently. I mean, Daniel Jones, I thought, was really good for the Giants for the most part. And you're right there. It was fun to watch last night. You didn't stay up for it at the end, just chaotic and crazy that Washington misses the field goal, and yet the Giants call for offsides, and then Hopkins gets another chance and doesn't miss on that one. And now, do you feel better about your kicker now, or are you still going to be bitter about it?
I mean, no, I don't feel good about him. He's been really inconsistent the last couple of years. Dustin Hopkins, I got to check how long he's actually been on the team, but it's every year he seems to miss some big kicks. Not even big kicks. He seems to miss a lot of kicks, but not necessarily in big moments. Every year he's good for a handful of missed extra points and mid 40-yarders just missed in the first quarter that you look at the end of the game and say, wow, if he had actually made that in the first quarter, it would have been a totally different game. But he tends to, I think, make them in clutch time. So it's just been weird how every year we never bring another guy to camp to challenge him. And that was still the same case this year. We have Eddie Pinheiro on the practice squad, but that's just in case he gets COVID the day before the game and we need to activate somebody and you don't have to bring somebody in from the outside or have the punter kick. But no, I do not feel good about Dustin Hopkins, and it just baffles me every year and baffles all Washington fans how he just waltzes into camp unchallenged.
That's Patrick Perrette, ladies and gentlemen, @_ Patrick Perrette. Big carrot. That's where Anthony's going. He says, good morning. Congrats, big carrot.
Thank you. I mean, I was fully ready to come in here and just completely rip Dustin Hopkins. It was 48 yards. An NFL kicker, that should be pretty much automatic. And it was very good work to get into field goal position after getting the ball back, which I didn't even think we were going to get the ball back after last week. The Chargers just killed 6 minutes of the clock and never gave us the ball back. So, no, I would have been pretty inconsolable this morning had we lost in that fashion, and super dramatic. But now I'm all aboard Taylor Heineke. We'll see what happens.
I thought he looked good, man. He looked good. A great story. Undrafted, the whole thing.
He's fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. And You can just tell. Some guys just have it. I don't know what it is. You can just feel it. You can kind of see it, but it's from a quarterback perspective, especially. It's a guy who just makes everybody else better.
Yeah.
It's what you got to have. And back to the Gamecock quarterback situation now. Been a while since you've seen that kind of guy. Dylan Thompson and Connor Shaw, I feel like those kind of guys. Since then, Carolina's been struggling at quarterback by and large. Last night, Carolina calls. That's what you heard Shane Beamer on to start the show, the keys to the game. That was just a short thought. Let's get the longer thoughts about Luke Doty, because I mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to have to hear something different from Shane Beamer before I believe that Luke Doty's going to play. I think this was it last night from Carolina calls.
And he did more on this Tuesday than what he did last Tuesday. So the biggest thing with him is just continuing to get the soreness out where he feels comfortable and knocking off the rust and all that, because he hasn't been in a lot of 11-on-11 situations against a full defense here for a while. So continuing to progress and get better each and every week, but fully expect him and the rest of our guys to be 100% on Saturday night.
So that wasn't quite what I was looking for there. Let's try it one more time. I think that was from the weekly press conference on Tuesday. I think we're looking for a little bit later on in that list that you have there, Patrick. Maybe 4 or 5, I'm guessing, with the number. Got what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
All right. This is from, so you just heard what Shane Beamer had to say on Tuesday's weekly press conference, and that was more of what we'd heard. That's what I heard the previous week, and that had us kind of reading between the lines yesterday saying, I don't think Zeb Nolan's going to play in this game. But what I heard last night makes me feel a little bit different.
I don't come up here each and every week and just make up stuff about Luke and tell people what they want to hear and stuff like that. I'm being truthful when I sit up here every week. Luke was sore last week. If Luke had to have gone in that game, we could have thrown him in there. Would he have been 100%? No. Would he have been able to run and show the athleticism that he has last week? No. Luke is not sore today. Now, does that mean he doesn't wake up tomorrow and be sore? I don't know. But Luke practiced today. Luke practiced yesterday. Luke practiced Tuesday. He hasn't been sore all week. He practiced all 11, meaning when the offense is on the field against a defense, he was out there and got some reps today. Again, I'm not going to put Luke out there before Luke can be effective doing what Luke needs to do. So having said that, I think Luke is as close. I know Luke is as close to 100% as he's been since he got hurt. He has practiced this week and has looked good. There is no soreness, and we anticipate him being able to play on Saturday night.
No soreness was the difference to me from Shane Beamer, what I heard there, than what we've heard before. Patrick, we got a couple of different opinions in already on this thing on the YouTube live stream. DC says it sounded like Doty will start. RL says, I thought it sounded like Zeb would start and Luke would come in if the situation changed. What did you hear there from Shane Beamer talking about Luke Doty and last night's Carolina calls right here on 107.5 game?
I agree that it sounds like he's going to play, but I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe that they're going to stray from the Zeb is the starter right now, I guess, and we'll see how it goes. But I hope that this is just he doesn't want to give anything away. You got Carolina calls 2 days before the game, almost exactly 48 hours before kickoff, and just keep them guessing. Keep them guessing. Maybe have them take equal snaps in warm-ups. Both guys be ready to play. But I am just hoping that Luke Doty is the one that struts out there for the opening drive. And I wouldn't bet on it. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm thinking 60-40 Zeb starts, and I guess like 90% that we're going to see Luke Doty in some capacity. But I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe that he's going to be the starter.
So that right there didn't change your mind. The no soreness. He hasn't been sore this week.
Yeah.
Been out there. So that was the encouraging part that I heard there. The part that made me think, maybe that's not quite enough to get him to start was when he says he was out there taking some reps when it was 11 on 11. That made me think he's taking much fewer reps than Zeb Nolan. Is that your thinking as well?
Yeah, that's fair. They got to have both guys ready. And I think almost no matter which way it goes, we're going to see both guys. Even if Luke does start, I wouldn't be surprised if Zeb plays at some point. But yeah, the split reps is just, I guess both guys have to be ready. I mean, they can't give Luke all the snaps and say you are preparing to be the starter, and like an NFL team would do, give the starter pretty much 100% of the reps and just say, back up, be ready if we call you. Because who knows? What he kept saying about the soreness is that they don't know. Will Luke wake up sore tomorrow? Did he get the most work yesterday that he's gotten all week, and he's going to now finally wake up sore? Or is he going to get off the bus in Athens? Bus. They're busing, right? Or are they flying?
No, this is the one that they bus in the SEC.
Okay, so they're busing to Athens. He's going to get off the bus and step off the bus and say, I'm a little bit sore right now. And all of a sudden that plan's out the window. You just have to have both guys ready for a game like this. So I think the split reps, I don't know how much to read into it, but I'm leaning that Zeb is going to start, and maybe sometime in the first quarter we'll see Luke. Maybe he comes in early for a short yardage third down or something like that, a third and manageable where you can have the run threat there just to help you. But we'll see. I mean, we haven't heard anything the last week that said when Luke's healthy, he's the starter, which is what I wanted to hear. I wanted to, for my sake, for my own mental sanity, I wanted to hear when Luke is ready and he's 100%, he is our starting quarterback. That's been the way that's how it's been for the last 6 months, and that's not changing now just because Zeb won us a couple games. Luke is our starter, so there's no reason for them to have said that. I hope the team knows that. I hope the team fully knows who's going to be the starter on Saturday night, but that's not for us to know right now, and it's hard to accept that we don't get to know everything, but it's just now a waiting game.
I think Shane is trying to keep a surprise and keep Georgia guessing. That's from Trey this morning on the Facebook live stream. We're up and rolling video-wise, Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. The station handle is at 1075 The Game. Chris and LeVar up with us as well as DC on the live video stream. A bunch of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Gamecock Larry in first this morning, or actually Gamecock Larry's grandson doing it for him. Good morning, all, at 4:52. Talk trash yesterday, fact talking today. And Gamecock Larry has you guys trained because two of you have also texted in as well, basically to Gamecock Larry. Good morning from Eddie. Regarding the game Saturday night, whoever wins will win by 10 points. I'm also predicting Gamecock Larry will predict the Gamecocks win by 3 points. Nick just addresses his text. Gamecock Larry, good morning. One more day. Just remember, first thing Monday morning, I want to hear why y'all didn't score the 44 points. I hope 1075 has a great day. Remember, go Dogs in 38-3. Woo! And then just got an anonymous text. Hypothetically, Carolina beats Georgia. Is Carolina beating Clemson?
That's how the transitive property works, right?
I mean, hypothetically, why not? And
stuff
why
always matches up exactly correct in college football.
Perfectly. No mystery, no intrigue. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines where I am always intrigued, especially with our favorite 87-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry. Ready for some fact talking today. Is that right, Larry?
Yes, sir. We're not, well, I'll tell you what, I had a pretty rough night. Woke up at 5 minutes to 1 and 27 popped into my mind. Well, I kept tossing and turning, I dozed off. Woke up at 3:05. 27 popped in my mind. Well, I had to get up. I've been up since 3 o'clock. But I got up, been sitting here. But I don't think 27 is going to be enough to win. And I was just answering that Georgia man back yesterday that called in, but just before I came on, I think he said something about we was going to score just 3. That's why I said 44, 41. I knew better than that. I ain't that crazy. I might be crazy, but I ain't lost my mind yet. But I just want to, I don't think 27 is going to be enough to win. But that will be enough to cover the spread. But I just don't want to let the special teams, which I understand are Musrat's coaching now. I don't want to let Georgia's special team, is that what you call them? Special teams score a touchdown. I just hope we get a special team touchdown. But I don't think it's going to be enough to win. But I don't want to predict against the Gamecocks. Well, I'm not going to predict against the Gamecocks. So I'm going to say we're going to win 24-21. Knowing it's a lie, but that's what I'm going to predict. 24-21 Gamecocks, because I don't think Georgia's going to score that many. I don't think they're going to score 40. You know what I mean. I don't understand myself. I'm about to fall asleep, but I'm going to let you go. But 24-21 Gamecocks, but don't be surprised if, you know what I mean. I ain't going to tell you. I'll tell you Monday. Go Gamecocks.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen. You talk about an internal struggle, man versus himself. If I had to teach that in a high school English class right there, Patrick, I would just play Gamecock Larry's phone call we just heard.
All week. I mean,
well,
and imagine he's texting in and then texting in and saying, not going to predict a win, but we're going to cover 32, and then calls in and immediately predicts a win.
And then they're predicted a win and then didn't, and yet just didn't want to say it. RL says, love that guy. Love the dude, but sounds like Gamecock Larry is backpedaling. It really did sound like that, didn't it? And what about, he said 44-41 just yesterday, right?
Yep.
And then, well, why are you telling us about your premonition of number 27? And then you go and predict 24-21, and you said 27 wasn't going to be enough.
Wasn't enough.
What the? That one was fascinating. Another fascinating guy on the program is on the other end of the experience spectrum. We go from our favorite 87-year-old caller to our favorite 12-year-old caller. And Gamecock Lucas up next on the Love Chevy phone lines. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So no trash talking, only facts today. I think that Gamecocks are going to be putting in their defense, and I think that as much as I don't like it, that is going to be put in first, and then Luke Doty will be put in, like Patrick said, like a third play, somewhere around there, like a 3rd and 8, so the run threat is there. And I think that we might even win by more than 3, maybe, prediction. I don't know. But I think once we put our offense and our defense together, we are going to be a very strong Carolina team. Go Gamecocks.
Gamecock Lucas, ladies and gentlemen. Just not trash talking, fact talking, taking after the great Gamecock Larry there, getting after it. Patrick, what do you think?
Complementary football. That is the key.
Good point. And don't forget special teams being meshed into that. Gamecock Lucas, especially with Shane Beamer running things. Pete Limbo and his squad been doing pretty well first couple of games, but it's going to take all of that and then some. Let's be very clear about that. Just put up the poll question for the morning. At Tim Hill 107.5, what'll happen tomorrow night between the hedges with Gamecock football and Georgia football? You got 4 options. Gamecocks get the upset. Then it's a matter of, all right, if they don't do that, what do you think the score will be? Georgia wins by 1-13, relatively close game. Georgia wins by 14-29. And if you're wondering why 29, that's an odd football score. Yes, it is. But the last I looked, the spread was right at 30. So then the other option is Georgia wins by 30+. So you got a couple of Carolina covers the spread but doesn't win the ball game. Then one that Georgia does cover the spread, and another one that you think history will repeat itself with what happened last time Carolina went to Georgia as a 24, 21 point underdog. I think it depends on when you put your money down a couple of years ago that week and pulled off the huge upset against a top 5 team. A chance to do that again. Where's your confidence level this morning? How are you feeling on a Friday, the day before the game? Gamecock Larry, sorry to hear you didn't sleep so well. By my math, we're sitting at 36 hours and about 40 minutes before game time. So I'm just saying budget your sleep accordingly. We can't have you nodding off during the game tomorrow night.
Or during the show.
Yeah, if you want to nod off during this show, totally fine. Patrick does it half the time. This morning, probably not going to do it. Hopefully not going to do it. Filling in for Jen Jensen in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. @_Patrick Perrette, where you can follow him on Twitter. I'm @TimHill1075, again, where that poll question is up and rolling on Twitter as well. If you would like to join the show, 803-404-6100. Would love to have you. You can call or text. Plenty more from Shane Beamer and last night's Carolina calls as we roll on this morning. You're listening to the early game. Just getting going on a Friday morning on 107.5 The Game.
Dan Patrick. Weekdays, 9 until noon. On
All hearing for the callers this morning already has me pumped up here. Obviously, Gamecock Larry was plenty comfortable. He's just nodding off, he said. I'm guessing he has one of the best recliner setups of all time. If your recliner setup needs a little help these days, I recommend you get out to Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. Daniel's, that's their specialty, the motion furniture it's called in the business, whether it's a recliner or a reclining sofa or love seat. Daniel's has plenty to choose from. You walk into Daniel's, they're out by the airport, by the way. You look over to your right, that's where the leather gallery is. That's where all the recliners are, 50 or more sitting right over there. Daniel's, they're not like a big box store where you're just a number walking in, a nameless, faceless customer. No, they're going to treat you like family. And when you're like family, you're going to say, hey, go sit down. Check it out. What do you think? You like this one? It can be yours. They'll sell it right off the floor to you. If you live within 20 miles of the store, it gets delivered free. It can be that simple at Daniel's. Also, if you need something more complicated, if you need them to order something, you need to change the fabric, the whole deal, they can do all that for you as well. Daniel and June Clark have been running Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding here in the Midlands for 25 years. They want you to be part of their family. They're known for the 3 Bs: best furniture, best service, and best price. 3911 Edmond Highway is where you can go visit Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. It's at the back of the airport in West Columbia, Highway 302 and Dunbar Road. Remember, when it's time to save, it's time for Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. All right, it's different this morning. Just 2 of us here on the old live stream. Glad you guys are with us. So you got, did we ever, I love this troll account. Sarcasm is strong. How can we compete against the great Georgia team? I guess what he's saying, without a full GA staff. They got plenty. DC, you think Georgia covers, huh? Just like that. Let's see where the Patrick, without looking, I'm not even going to look. I'm going to guess that most people are going the 14 to 29 range. Georgia wins. That's what.
Yes.
You concur?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's going to be far and away the winner. Not a cover, but a decided victory.
So a cover for Carolina, but not necessarily close.
Yeah.
It's where 41% of the early vote is. 32% of the early vote going with the upset.
The homers are up
That number
early.
might come down as people wake up a little less optimistically a little later on in the morning. I wonder if I can actually pop in that tweet. Cool. Okay. Oh, we're gonna get fancy maybe here. Let's see what I can do. Clicking some buttons over here, trying to do some stuff. There you go. How about that?
Yes.
So this is good to know too, Patrick. I can basically just take a screenshot of Twitter and pop it up here.
Update it as we go.
That's where we are on this thing right now. Now I'll take all the I'll take screenshots of all the trash that Patrick talks about you guys in the private chat and put it up there and totally sell them out as well.
That's fine. I'll say it to him.
You're not threatened.
No, I'll say it to him.
More fun that way anyway.
Anybody had a bad take on the live stream yet? Not really.
All right, so we got
Sport
Sport Court popping up at 7:30. Then we'll do our picks right around 8:30. We'll do Chris right off the top there at 8, high school stuff. Good with you?
That's good with me.
All right, let's see what else we got.
Got our games.
What was that?
I got our games.
You got our games? Perfect.
Yeah. I think
And
there's USC and Clemson, Bama, and then the Auburn-Penn State game.
Yeah.
I think the fifth game we should do Tulane and Ole Miss. That one's getting a lot of buzz on Twitter right now. A lot of people are talking about it.
I'm down with it. I mean, anytime a school brings back a mascot in their helmet from decades ago, I'm all down with it.
Sweet. I've loved seeing all the old Tulane game day posters too, and
I'm down.
all sorts of people, not buzz, but people saying lobbying to bring Tulane into the SEC. I would love it.
For their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation. Call 800-259-8642. 800-259-8642. 800-259-8642. Optimal tax relief.
Patrick, I want to do the other long one here.
What's the other long one?
The other long one and the other long piece of sound there, number 7.
Muschamp and Kirby.
Yep. I'll set it up before we hit it, right?
Okay.
Out of the break.
And Kenny Golladay was not happy with Daniel Jones last night.
I saw that. That was pretty shocking, man. I thought Jones was fantastic.
I don't know what the deal was. Kenny Golladay also might not be that good.
Well, he certainly hasn't earned the right to rip his quarterback on the sideline like that.
After 2 games. There's just so many guys that are really good on one team. Things seem to work in that location with that, whatever, if it was that quarterback, and then they move and it just doesn't work anymore. Like Odell, it just didn't work. Whatever's happening in Cleveland is just not working. There might have just been something about Golladay and Matthew Stafford together that worked. All right, you're up.
Love to see these text messages continue to roll in. Gene says, congrats, Big Red. Washington win last night. Oh, if you didn't hear Patrick's perspective on that, totally thought it was a loss, was already better.
Yeah. What is Big Red?
That's another nickname you've gotten before.
From who? How? Why? I don't get it.
You don't consider yourself a ginger?
No, strawberry blonde at best.
So would that be Big Pink?
Is that what it is? I don't know.
Yeah, that's why you're getting Big Red.
I don't like Big Red because one of my best friends is Big Red. I named him Big Red because his name's Jared, and his name ends in red.
Okay.
So I don't like myself being called Big Red. It seems weird. It feels weird when I constantly call someone else Big Red.
Will you accept Big Carrot?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take that.
And
It's not red hair, though. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not.
If you guys don't know, Pat's theory is that the carrot industry has completely overtaken the idea that carrots improve your eyesight. He doesn't think there's anything to it. That's how I get it.
It's always been. People have always said that. There's just no way it's true.
Richard said, not Gamecock related. Patrick, you're a Maryland guy. Do I take Maryland -7 tonight against Illinois?
Yes.
I will.
Maryland is going to absolutely dominate the next 2 weeks. Then they have Kent State next week, or another team of that ilk, and they're going to crush Illinois, beat them, and then Iowa is going to be a top 5 team coming into College Park. Already a blackout, going to be one of the first, probably close to sellouts. One of the biggest Maryland games since Penn State 2 years ago, and it was the exact same situation in Penn State. Beat them 59-0. So Maryland's going to come in ranked, probably in the top 20. People are going to be talking about them. That game's going to be primetime television, Fox Sports 1 or Big Ten Network, whatever it is. And Iowa's just going to beat them down. I was going to destroy them. Whatever the line is for the Iowa-Maryland game in 3 weeks, take Iowa, but take Maryland tonight. That's how they do it.
Gene comes back and says, fine, Big Carrot. RL's theory says the carrot thing was a cover story for pilots in World War I think. Love
cover story.
Throwing stuff out now. Sharp Spur, Patrick was very decisive about Maryland, which shocks me because I think they've been one of the more Jekyll and Hyde programs in all of college football, where they can play Ohio State down to the wire a couple of years ago and then turn around and lose to Rutgers the next week or whatever.
Beat Texas twice. But it's just lined up perfectly for what Maryland always does. They score a ton of points. We think, oh, maybe Maryland is actually a good team this year, and then they play a big-time game and just completely fold. So we'll see.
Not nearly as decisive as Big Carrot this one. He says he's about as decisive as Gamecock Larry was. Head says Georgia 31, Gamecocks 10. This is from Sharpsburg. His heart says Gamecocks 26, Georgia 24. At the end of the game, I just want to see us fight as hard as we can, and I'll be okay with that. This year. Go Gamecocks. That's from Sharpsburg on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. Charles says, you ever seen a rabbit wearing glasses? That's proof that carrots are good for your eyes.
I've seen rabbits do some dumb stuff. I've seen rabbits run into walls.
I think I've seen them wearing some glasses, actually. I read a lot of books with rabbits in them these days. Bunnies, we call them around my house for the 1.5-year-old. Back to football. Carolina calls last night. Interesting perspective, I think, from Shane Beamer. You know, I especially saw it in the Steve Spurrier era. Anytime the Florida came up, any kind of Florida history, man, you could just, when I was in the room for those press conferences, as soon as that came up, it was like Spurrier would physically retreat, right? It was like, I didn't want anything to do with that. He knew that he wasn't going to win with any kind of comment there with his history with Florida. And then Muschamp, his history with Georgia, not quite as deep, clearly. Wasn't a head coach there, but being all around the SEC, Muschamp handled it in even more complete, unfeeling way, just talking about loyal to the person who signs the paycheck and the whole deal. But here's how Shane Beamer handled the question last night. The question kind of was, how does the relationship, the fact that you worked at Georgia a couple of years ago, and now the fact that Will Muschamp's on the sideline for Georgia this year, how does that affect this game going in? I thought it was an interesting perspective from Shane Beamer from last night's Carolina Calls from Learfield Sports. You heard it right here on 107.5 The Game.
We won the SEC, and they've got an assistant coach that was sitting in this chair last year at this time that I'm in right now. So it is unique from that standpoint. Will certainly knows our personnel schemes, no, because we're completely different in all three phases. But he could walk in there and maybe talk about, the strengths and weaknesses of Darius Rush or Aaron Sterling or Kevin Harris or whatever. But I don't, at the end of the day, I don't know how much that's going to matter. I certainly had a fantastic time in Athens working for Kirby, learned a lot from him, and I'm very, very fortunate for my time that I had there. If anything, maybe a little bit more of an advantage for us because they haven't changed systems. Offensively, they've got a different coordinator from when I was there, but maybe some of the things that Kirby believes in as a head coach, things that I know he practices, tricks and the way he thinks. And I took notes in every single staff meeting we ever had, and anything that came out of his mouth, I have. Now, is that going to help us on Saturday night? I don't know. Maybe something does, but at the end of the day, it's about the players on the field, and they've got a bunch of really good ones, and so do we.
Shane Beamer, last night's Carolina Calls right here on 107.5 The Game. Patrick, what do you make of what you just heard there? To me, I can't help but think of the last time Carolina went over to Athens and Will Muschamp and his team, a huge underdog. Will Muschamp, an even deeper and longer relationship with Kirby Smart, and clearly that was an advantage for the Gamecocks and Will Muschamp in that scenario. Does Shane Beamer have anything similar kind of up his sleeve, any kind of similar advantage going into this game?
The unknown, I guess, would be the only advantage. I mean, just because he may have taken little things here and there from all of his other coaches, but we don't know. And certainly Kirby Smart doesn't have any experience, or Will Muschamp doesn't have any experience against Marcus Satterfield or Clayton White, for that matter. I'm not sure if they've ever played Western Kentucky, but I kind of doubt it. So that from that standpoint, we're really not going to know anything. And I guess more importantly, the quarterback position, if it's Zeb Nolan, they're definitely not going to really know anything about Zeb Nolan. I mean, Kirby played him Kirby and Muschamp have never seen Zeb Nolan, even at Iowa State. So, yeah, that'll be a complete unknown.
They've
right?
seen him. They've never played against him, but they are buddies with his dad, who is a well-known high school coach at Oconee County. Also coached Brad Johnson's son, Max, the LSU head coach. The LSU quarterback, excuse me. I read an article on The Athletic about that, actually, how one high school's got two starting quarterbacks in the SEC, and the journeys have been very different, and how Brad Johnson was right around Athens. So I guess Brad Johnson married Mark Richt's sister is how he got over into the Athens area. And originally Max was going to a private school around there. And then they kind of ran into Zeb Nolan's dad, and they happened to, I believe the story is they played high school football together, or they knew each other from a long time ago. And they were just started talking football, and Zeb Nolan's dad never asked Brad to kind of get his son over there or anything like that. But Brad Johnson just saw kind of what Zeb Nolan's dad was building in Oconee County and ended up thinking that would be best for his son and did that. And now he didn't do it the first couple of years of his son's career in high school because Zeb Nolan's dad, as the story goes, told him to kind of separate. He didn't want his dad to be kind of when you win a Super Bowl, when you were in the NFL for forever, played it at Florida State, you can imagine if your dad's kind of just there defining you the whole time, might not be the best thing for a young quarterback. So he said, kind of stay away, be a dad. And that's what Brad Johnson did for a couple of years. And then as Max Johnson kept getting better and better, Zeb Nolan's dad actually asked Brad Johnson to come help out. And he's been a volunteer quarterbacks coach at Oconee County for years now, just doing that. It's a pretty amazing story, as is this Beamer and Muschamp, Kirby Smart kind of triangle deal that will play out in front of our eyes on Saturday night, Patrick.
Yeah, by the way, Brad Johnson's also a TikTok star now.
What?
Yeah, apparently I've seen some of him on Twitter. He just does hilarious trick shots with footballs and basketballs. Like, he'll be giving a thumbs up, smiling at the camera because he clearly doesn't. He's just such a dad, and he'll just like throw the basketball over his head and just hit like a backwards 3-pointer, and people are loving his TikTok.
So he's old dude perfect? Is that what?
Yeah, it's very funny. He'll just be like spinning a football and throw the basketball over his head, or just do like reverse layups and just give a thumbs up to the camera, just exactly how you'd expect a 50-year-old dad to act on TikTok. It's very funny.
Good for him. Thanks for the the heads up there. That's 25-year-old Patrick Perrette keeping us young here. I'm 43 years old. Never felt older. I would have no idea to even view anything on TikTok right now. The only time I even know about TikTok is seeing that mess on Twitter.
Yeah.
The only reason I know about Twitter is the job and try to keep us up to date here. Speaking of that, let me update the latest poll question results right now, asking you, as we typically do on a Friday morning during football season, what's going to happen tomorrow between Carolina and Georgia. This one phrased a little differently, or the options a little different than normal. Gamecocks get the upset. Tied for third right now, with Georgia wins a close one between 1 and 13 points. In second place, Georgia covers. So the third place vote getters getting 15% of the vote right now, tied. Georgia wins by 30 or more than a quarter of you saying that, 26% of the vote going there. And most of you right now settling on a comfortable Georgia win, but not covering the spread, winning by 14 to 29 points. That's at 43% of the vote. Again, at Tim Hill 1075, where you can go and check that one out on Twitter. Hear more from Shane Beamer from last night's Carolina calls when we come right back. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, you can call or text. It's the early game here on 1075 The Game.
Live, local, and free. That's how we do sports. 1075 The Game. Feel free to call and complain if you wish.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Remember, we are free of charge, after all.
Professional help. Clearly, that's what I need. Clearly, that's what my family needs. But I'm talking about getting our house looking and feeling its best. ZeroResColumbia.com is the website to go to check out all you need to know about Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning. What they've done at my house. They've been out a couple of times. And, man, great results. Jesse and his crew, they do a great job. When Jesse comes into my house, it needs that carpet cleaning, and it feels like a comfortable lived-in home. When he leaves my house, it feels like a fresh new home. And the way that Zero Res cleans, they do it differently than anybody else. That's the unique and best part about Zero Res. They have a patented ZR water. No harsh chemicals involved in the process, with my three boys always rolling around on the carpet. That is especially important to my wife and I at our house. Also, the fact that there's no leftover soapy residue, so our carpets stay cleaner longer. Yours can as well. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned right now for $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. That's the deal at ZeroResColumbia.com. You can book your appointment today. You can also give Zero Res a call, 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Clear. And from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. Shepherd's Glass.
You got it, Patrick. All right, let's see what else is going on. Of course, Lane Kiffin is brilliant in his own kind of self-destructive way. He could stay out of his way. Brilliant. Yep, and maybe another reason we're going to put it in our 5 college picks, them in Tulane. He knows how to get attention. That is for sure, Travis. Lane Kiffin knows how to get attention. And yes, a Manning cast. Again, if you guys didn't see that the other night, I highly recommend it. I really think it's going to be a trend. And you got to have the right people to do it for sure. But I think it's going to be a trend in broadcast television moving forward, man. Because the only thing that people will watch live is sports. I feel like you can watch this live or you can go back and watch it. Either way, I guess the only reason I wouldn't totally suggest it is if you're really invested in both the teams. Because at least me, then I want to hear the game. I want to hear the broadcast. I need to hear the details, how they're telling the stories. Really focused and intense about that. But if it's not your team playing, and you can hear Peyton Manning and Eli Manning breaking it down and then taking shots at each other and then having other people in there and the whole thing, I think it's fantastic. Justin agrees, it looks like. Patrick, were you on board with this thing? Did you watch much of it the other night?
I didn't watch any of it. I was working. but I'm into it. I would like to watch it I guess not next Monday because I'll be working, but the following Monday I will watch it. I like the idea. Apparently the ratings were not good, even though that's all anybody was talking about the next day.
I mean, what did they expect? You know what I mean?
I don't know, but the way it was discussed the next day, every big show was talking about the Mannings, and it seemed like everyone was watching the Mannings. But when the ratings came out, I think it didn't do well for some reason.
So, Justin, what do you mean by you saw a side of Eli you haven't seen before? I thought he was just typical Eli Manning in that thing. And yeah, that story about being the Mike linebacker was fantastic, Travis. But that's the thing. Like, you got to have guys on there that have a lot of stories and that can also quickly pivot to exactly what's going on and be interesting with it. And I mean, they're those guys.
All right, we're coming back.
Let's go. The other quick one about Georgia, I think, with Shane Beamer. Right on. You see it? The other 8-second one?
I don't see the times. I just see the size.
Number 5. Yeah. We're a good team.
We are a good team.
Yeah.
Have and we're a team too, and we got a bunch of competitors on our squad, and we're excited to go compete.
Last night's Carolina Calls, Shane Beamer right here on 107.5 The Game from Learfield Sports. It's pretty simple. He said it many, many times, and I think did an excellent job. You know, it's tough for coaches in game week a lot of times from my perspective to give appropriate respect and then also not back down. When you're a big underdog in this situation and you're Shane Beamer and you're a first-year head coach, you're going against a program that is where Georgia is, obviously you're going to give them a bunch of respect. But you do that and you don't stick up for your players like he just did right there, then I think you risk that your players start hearing that message a little too much. Steve Spurrier was always on the other end of that. He was the opposite of Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz was going to tell you they're playing the best team in the world this year or this week, no matter who it was and no matter what kind of program it was and the whole deal. Steve Spurrier, I think sometimes, actually, I know sometimes he didn't even know the opposing head coach's name. I know that one for a fact. So he went the entire other way. But he would say in his press conference, well coached, and give the lip service, and was complete lip service most of the time. I think this week Shane Beamer's done a pretty good job of verbalizing the challenge that is right in front of his program, but also making sure to stand up for his program at the same time. It's a little tricky, Patrick. It's a tricky spot. Maybe not as tricky as the Eastern Illinois pregame talk and trying to give respect to that opponent, because this is easy to give respect to the opponent. The tricky part is talking about your team on the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's in that difficult of a situation. He said during his press conference, this is maybe the most talented team Georgia's ever had, or at least the most talented defense they've ever had. So I think you're just overly complimentary of your team, and then you just continue to preach the message to your team when the media is not around that nobody thinks you can win this game. You really have nothing to lose at this point. It's not like we roll our eyes when Nick Saban comes in and says how much of a challenge Mercer is going to be, but it's a totally different situation for him too, because he can just go in there and bash his team. And I think he said, yeah, we still haven't played a full 4 quarters of football. We haven't shown that we can put together 60 good minutes of football, because all he's trying to do is make sure his guys don't get too big for their britches and try and bring them back down a peg a little bit. But South Carolina is really not in that position. And 2 games in, it's a unique situation, and who knows where we'll be next week. But yeah, I think it's pretty easy to just say, yeah, we're playing an unbelievable team. They're favored by 30 points. No one thinks we can win. There's a reason that Georgia's favored this much. They're a great team, but hey, we got good football players too. This is the SEC.
Speaking of SEC, Gamecock fan Jamie on Twitter, Cox by 90. Speaking of the SEC, jealousy. A couple of Clemson fans weighing in on the Cool Color Heating and Air text line. John from Somerville, Dogs by 50. Clemson fan, as is Jim in Carolina Beach. Georgia wins by 35, he says, 45-10. Would that be better than Clemson's game? They scored 10. That's coming up in hour number 2 on the way here on the early.
This is Todd Ellis, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game, WNKT, Eastover, Columbia.
Our caller just dropped full stat for us.
Yeah, that's my bad not getting him in there. So what you got planned for the weekend, sir? Taking it easy?
Yeah. Really don't have any plans. Sunday is going to be less stressful since Washington doesn't play now, but I'm not blown away by the college football slate, so I'll probably just focus on the couple games that I'm actually interested in. I think last week's slate was better, particularly at night. I think 2 TVs might suffice this week.
You're definitely spoiled by week 1.
Yeah. I didn't even get to watch that much week 1.
Whoa. So Indy just completely dropped out of the top 25. Okay. I'm looking at Cincinnati at Indiana in week 1 and a noon game, ESPN. That one seems like a good one to me. Virginia Tech, West Virginia. Not bad.
I think Cincinnati's going to kill them.
Really?
Yeah.
It's only 3.5 points.
Yeah.
Michigan State, Miami. Also a noon game. Not bad.
Kind of intrigued by Virginia Tech and West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. And you're not digging Alabama and Florida at 3:30?
No, that's the big one. That's the one. I mean, the games that we're going to pick are the ones that I'm going to be very interested to watch. I didn't write down the times. I actually don't know how many of them are going to overlap.
I got the time.
Clemson's
Penn
playing
State's
at
night game.
3:30. Clemson's playing at 3:30, right? Same time as Alabama.
Yep.
Auburn, it's a whiteout at Penn State. I assume that's the same time as USC.
7:30 instead of 7.
Tulane, Ole Miss. Is that a noon kick?
8 p.
8 p.m.
Yep.
So I will need more TVs.
I need to go say hi to the kids real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm going to continue going through the college football slate. Let's see. FBS. It's actually UCF in Louisville and Maryland, Illinois. Actually not bad for a Friday night. Nebraska, Oklahoma. That's going to be a bloodbath. Cincinnati is going to beat Indiana in Indiana. Take that to the bank. Noon, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. Intrigued by that game. Coastal, Buffalo. Coastal is going to slaughter Buffalo. What else is interesting? Chattanooga, Kentucky. If you want to stick out Kentucky, this is not going to be the week to do it. Tennessee Tech at Kentucky. Tennessee, ew. Purdue at Notre Dame. That will be an interesting one. Notre Dame has not looked good at all. And Purdue's motivated because Notre Dame's not letting them bring their big drum. Purdue has the biggest drum in the world that they use for every single college football game. They've done it for every game for 30 years, but Notre Dame's not letting them use the main tunnel, and the giant drum will not fit through the visitor tunnel. So extra motivation there. Alabama going to destroy Florida. Georgia Tech not going to score a touchdown against Clemson. The rest of this is terrible. The rest of the SEC, Arkansas, Georgia Southern, Mississippi State, Memphis. What else we got? Stony Brook, Oregon. What? Virginia, UNC. Stanford at Vanderbilt. Battle of the Nerds there. Oklahoma State, Boise State's not a bad game. It's a 9 p.m. kick. 10:15, Arizona State, BYU, ranked matchup. One of the only ranked matchups of the week. I think it's actually one of 3 ranked matchups this week. Hard for me to care less about that game. All right, Fresno State, UCLA. That's the 10:45 kick that we want. Fresno State's actually really good. They can put up a lot of points. Upset watch. Let's check a quick live line of that. UCLA. UCLA minus 11. Might have to take the Fresno State Bulldogs there. Why are you not playing? Who did Vandy beat last week? I couldn't even tell you they played last week. Oh, Colorado State. That's ridiculous. So Vanderbilt loses by 20 to East Tennessee State, but then beats Colorado State at Colorado State. What the heck?
Sure, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, this would be the classic college football move if Vandy beat Stanford, right?
Yeah. What time are you hitting the road, Anthony? Yeah, Arizona State BYU actually could be a good game, but 10:45 is going to be a tough sell. And if South Carolina loses bad, I'm not going to want to do anything. I'm going to go to bed.
Well, yeah, Arizona State BYU, good call. It's late night. I assume I haven't gotten down that far.
Yeah, 10:45.
Oh, beautiful. You got UNLV with a chance to knock off Iowa State at home. Be a classic Iowa State loss with a 31.5-point spread.
Are we going to see what's his face? He didn't play in the first game.
What's his face?
The kid from QB1 that's been at a million schools.
Oh, yeah.
What's that kid's name?
I like Virginia, North Carolina 7:30 game, too. I think there's some good ones. I think you're underselling. We'll yell at each other on the show here.
Well, that's what I just did while you were gone, was just read the whole schedule and give a
right. And
I don't know. There's
you still telling us it's not very good?
Bill would be trying to sell a lot of these games. Nevada, Kansas State, 2 p.m. That's an odd start time, but Carson Strong might be a first-round pick quarterback, and this is his only last chance to play against a Power 5 team this year. That could be a good one, Nevada, Kansas State. And Deuce Vaughn, the running back for Kansas State, electric.
Electric. Let's go the keys to the game again off the top. Thank you, sir. So we're going to go 3 breaks here, Patrick?
Yeah.
10, 20, and 40, right?
Yep.
Got it. I'll tell you.
Limit their explosives, and it would be nice to score on defense again too. It certainly help.
Shane Beamer last night on Carolina Calls, courtesy of Learfield Sports, right here on 107.5 The Game. Those could be keys to pretty much any game, but especially this game is where you need the ball to bounce your way when you're a 30-plus point underdog going into it, like the Gamecocks are. But also, I think you heard in his voice there, at least I did. I felt like I did. Maybe this is just who Shane Beamer is, and he's not going to show a bunch of stress or pressure on a Thursday night coaches show, but absolutely zero pressure on South Carolina football going into this game. Justin had a good point, I think, on the live video stream chat on Facebook Live. Justin weighs in and says, Gamecock fans have to like where they're at. Even with a loss this week, you're 2-1 heading into a huge game against Kentucky with a presumably fully healthy Luke Doty. Patrick, you're not necessarily a glass half full guy like Justin came off there. What do you think of his perspective of Gamecock football a day before taking on Georgia in Athens?
A lot could happen between now and that Kentucky game that could make you not feel good about where you're at. I mean,
like what?
Like Georgia covering the spread, Luke Doty getting the start in South Carolina, not being able to move the ball at all, having 2 yards on the ground like Clemson did, and looking completely
but wait a second.
futile.
I'm glad you just pointed that out. Like Clemson did. Nobody's feeling bad about Clemson being one of the best teams in the country, right?
Yep. No, but actually South Carolina should have a better rushing attack than Clemson. They have better running backs.
More than 2 yards? Yes, of course.
But just in general, going into the season, if you said, obviously Clemson is better than South Carolina in almost every area, let's get that out of the way. But South Carolina has better running backs, and Clemson's offensive line has always been suspect. So South Carolina could have gone in and said, yeah, we have a better rushing attack overall than Clemson does. So yeah, they should do better, but I mean, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel good going into Kentucky saying, well, at least we did better than Clemson, which was a pathetic offensive performance. So yeah, I don't know. I think you feel okay, but I mean, I didn't feel good on Monday after the East Carolina win. So
well, I think that's my point. You've already seen the offense struggle at East Carolina. So if you see them struggle at Georgia, I don't think you're going to feel much differently. To me, it's only icing on the cake, man. And Justin comes back, but isn't that what's expected, Patrick? The spread's 30-plus points.
Yeah.
Anything more competitive than that is a plus. Coaches won't say it publicly, but that's the brass tacks, and I completely agree. From the outside looking in, the Gamecocks really only have positives to take from this game. You get blown out, against one of the best teams in the country. It's usually the third game of a new coaching staff regime. You've already won 2 games. Good to go. No one outside of the most optimistic Gamecock fans has this penciled in as a W. And most don't have this penciled in as a competitive game at all. And I think that's where you have a tremendous opportunity after playing not well in week 2. Right? Across the board, last night, Shane Beamer said it on Carolina Calls, did everything they could to lose that game. I mean, you want bad turnovers. You want poor execution on a trick play that the coaching staff was telling you that it's coming on the first play. Calls didn't go your way about fumbles that were very close one way or another and at critical places on the field. All that stuff. And then Carolina still escaped with the win. So I'm with you about how you felt this past Monday. It's this upcoming Monday where I think it's going to be hard for Gamecock fans to be more disappointed this coming Monday than they were last Monday. But that's knowing they had the win, and that's where the icing on the cake comes from in my mind. You lose that game to East Carolina, and then I think it's very difficult to start to make a case for the entire season, much less for feeling good the Monday after Georgia going into a game against Kentucky, because I think Kentucky's pretty good this year.
Yeah.
But you can certainly get some guys confidence that might not even have it right now, because hearing Shane Beamer and Marcus Satterfield talk about their offensive line, I get what they're saying. It's a little bit more complicated than we might be making it, but it hadn't been good. I think that's just the bottom line. It just hasn't been good. If it can be respectable against Georgia, and I don't even know what's respectable against Georgia from an offensive line standpoint. Only 3 or 4 sacks, being able to run the ball at least 100 yards. I mean, these are very reasonable expectations, I think, going into this game. But the way that Georgia's going to line up and just go at Carolina, I think, historically has been a good thing. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, Patrick, how Georgia knows they have good players. Shane Beamer talked about it last night. They know they have guys who are going to be able to make plays, so they probably won't scheme it up like Eastern Illinois and East Carolina did, to where they were making up for a talent deficit. Because if the talent deficit is the other way in this game, Carolina doesn't have as much as Georgia, so you scheme it up differently. And how Carolina responds to in this situation, I think it's going to be fascinating in so many ways. Number one, what the players do, and then two, how the coaches approach this thing in Shane Beamer's SEC debut as a head coach.
Yeah, so I think in a lot of ways you're playing with house money, but there are levels to where you can have your will completely broken. So I would say offense, score points, any points whatsoever, rush for, 50 yards total. I would like to think that the sacks won't be outlandish because they know going into this game, we're not going to have any time. Every pass that we dial up is going to have to be getting that ball out quick. That's got to be the message to the quarterbacks all week long. No deep drops, no long developing routes. Snap the ball and get it out. I think that's what they're going to do. Clemson game proved that. Georgia can get home with 4 guys. It's nothing for them. So I would hope that the sack yardage is not going to be as bad as it was against Clemson. And then defensively, Jan.
By the way, on the Facebook live stream, Clemson actually rushed for 40-plus yards against Georgia, but the sacks negated most of that. I got to believe Zeb will have a substantial amount of yards lost in getting sacked that will overshadow any type of rushing attack we may muster. I think to Jan's point, Marcus Satterfield talked about throwing the ball down the field, and Shane Beamer talked about it last night. Said we got to throw it over their heads, man. They're getting after us, and that's where the Georgia defense is going to be keyed in on, right? I mean, they're not worried about a deep threat because South Carolina doesn't have one at this point, not a proven one. Zeb Nolan does throw a pretty good deep ball, I think, is what I saw in the last game. That touchdown pass that ended up getting overturned to Josh Vann in the corner of the end zone, a really good example of that. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your overall point, though, Patrick. You were on a roll.
Yeah. Well, and just the big thing will be the defense. If Georgia just slices and dices them, if Stetson Bennett comes in there and throws 5 touchdowns and makes them look like UAB did last week, that will be very disappointing because that's the one thing that you're kind of hanging your hat on for this season is the defense is good, particularly the defensive line. Obviously, Enagbare, and then Jordan Strawn has been getting a lot of love, maybe not nationally, but I have heard the analytics folks are very high on what he's done the first 2 games for South Carolina. So they seem to be 2 legit edge dudes. And if Georgia just runs all over you, it's not even a problem. They're getting 7-8 yards every time they hand it off, and Stetson Bennett's sitting in the pocket for 7 or 8 seconds and just looking around, finding his guys, and it's just effortless. And Georgia scores 49 points. That will be bad. So as it's again going to be very sad to say, but for the offense, score points, the defense, hold them to the 30s or less, and you can come out of that saying the season's not over. Kentucky, we have a chance to win that game. But there's certainly levels to it. It can, if it's 49-0, nobody's going to be feeling good on Monday morning or having any dignity.
I think offensively, only bonus points here, only house money. Defensively, I think you're exactly right with where you were coming at from this. But also, then the comparison might end up being out of this game, hey, man, at least it's not quite like last year's defense from the Gamecock fan standpoint, as opposed to right now thinking it's a pretty good defense overall. The stats through 2 games are really, really good, but Eastern Illinois and East Carolina aren't Georgia. And there's a reason that this spread is larger between South Carolina and Georgia than it was between UAB and Georgia. And that's where Lester says, I find it hard to believe Georgia's plus 32 against us. Or minus 32, so. This game's always competitive when we play Georgia, and I think our running game is dynamic. I think last year's running game was dynamic for the Gamecocks. I don't think they've proven that this year, and I think it's only proven to be frustrating. Juju McDowell and the offensive line did get it going against East Carolina. Maybe they hit on something there. Maybe they can hit on something against Georgia's scheme that they haven't been able to do through 2 games. Odds, though, are not great there. They run the football relatively successfully, and I'm just talking about triple digits, right? I'm talking about cracking 100 yards, especially knowing that Clemson had 2. If they do that, then I'll agree with Lester that this year's running game is dynamic. But I got to see it this year. I haven't seen it yet. Eastern Illinois, it doesn't count. East Carolina, it was a struggle. Fourth quarter did get it going, but should have got it going much earlier than that. I think a lot of Gamecock fans would agree with with that sentiment as well. 803-404-6100. Love to hear from you guys. You can call or text. We got the poll question up and rolling on Twitter at Tim Hill 1075. Latest update here. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow between the hedges? 42% of you going with Georgia wins but doesn't cover. They win relatively comfortably, 14 to 29 points. The other three options are getting closer and closer. Georgia covers, is still in second place right now. In third place, Gamecocks get the upset. And Georgia winning a close game in fourth place right now. But again, all three of those options that aren't Georgia winning by 14 to 29 points. Pretty close in today's Twitter poll question at Tim Hill 1075. Who knows where the show will go from here. Wanted to let you hear, though, the latest from Shane Beamer. Last night's Carolina calls about the health of Luke Doty and the quarterback situation. We'll do that right when we come back. It's the early game here on 1075 The Game.
This is Gamecock basketball coach Frank Martin, and you're listening to 1075 The Game, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
Greg, Patrick didn't have time to go to Jim Donnan on YouTube this morning. Doing traffic updates, answering calls, doing the whole thing. What does Donnan say? Sum it up for us, man. Sum it up for us, will you? Yeah. Good luck with that, Jan. I mean, we didn't see screens against East Carolina. Speed that Georgia has. I don't think you want to go east and west against them and just bet that your guy's going to be better than them. Respectability is what Jason. I hear you. Oh, go with your Giants, huh? Jason's giving you some props for the win last night.
Yeah, the Giants' offensive line is horrendous. That has been a big problem. That's going to lose Dave Gettleman his job, ultimately, because he's an O-line guy.
Hog Mollies.
Yeah. And he drafted Andrew Thomas as the top of offensive lineman in the draft last year, and he is by far the worst of them. Tristan Wirfs started and was a stud for the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers all year long from day one at right tackle. Jedrick Wills started every game for the Browns last year and was awesome on the league's probably best offensive line last year. Mekhi Becton's a monster, and Andrew Thomas was not good. I love him. So far, I started 2 games, beating the Giants, and played awesome against the Bucs. He's just fun to watch. Does not have a strong arm, but he's really smart and gets away with things.
I like both those quarterbacks last night. Daniel Jones is massively impressive to me.
Yeah.
That touchdown run, that holding was weak, by the way. He got lucky on that one. Weak.
We got lucky to win that game.
For sure.
In many ways.
So Craig's saying that Jim Donnan says that Georgia will have no problem throwing all over Carolina. I mean,
that's crazy.
To me, that's the only chance you have to win, right? Force Georgia to throw the ball, get a couple of bounces, a pick or two. We saw that recipe a couple of years.
Still haven't heard anything about Darnell Washington.
All right, Patrick, can you put the bell sound effect on that page that has the sport court open and close? Is it on there?
Is it ding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Because they're going to add in some keywords there during the sport court segment. That'll earn some extra point. Just lawyer Lisa keywords. They like will, trust, long-term plan. You can work those in here.
Okay. We're back, by the way.
Man, we've talked about it a ton. Talked about it, I feel like, for the last, how long has this been, man? 6 weeks? Probably not quite that long since Luke Doty went down in preseason camp with a midfoot sprain, originally feared to be possibly season-ending injury, and then kind of upgraded to several weeks, was going to possibly be available for the season opener. That didn't work out. Possibly going to be available for week number 2. Soreness in the foot was the explanation. Shane Beamer giving us further explanation last night from Carolina Calls. You heard it right here on 107.5 The Game, courtesy of Learfield Sports. Would like to let you hear it again so we can get into the latest discussion about the quarterback position for the Gamecocks.
It up here every week. Luke was sore last week. If Luke had to have gone in that game, we could have thrown him in there. Would he have been 100%? No. Would he have been able to run and show the athleticism that he has last week? No. Luke is not sore today. Now, does that mean he doesn't wake up tomorrow and be sore? I don't know. But Luke practiced today. Luke practiced yesterday. Luke practiced Tuesday. He hasn't been sore all week. He practiced all 11, meaning when the offense is on the field against a defense, he was out there and got some reps today. Again, I'm not going to put Luke out there before Luke can be effective doing what Luke needs to do. So having said that, I think Luke is as close. I know Luke is as close to 100% as he's been since he got hurt. He has practiced this week and has looked good. There is no soreness, and we anticipate him being able to play on Saturday night.
Fascinating, the perspective last night from Shane Beamer. Encouraging, I think, from a Gamecock perspective about Luke Doty possibly playing. It kind of took me up to that point and then drew me back a little bit, I feel like, from what I was hearing. No soreness. We haven't heard that yet. So that's more than we've heard. And then possibly playing last night, or expect that he could go. It makes me feel like they're so close, but I think the ultimate plan is going to be for him to go against Kentucky, against Georgia. Where are you at after you heard that, Patrick?
He's clearly giving himself an out by just saying, I don't know how he's going to feel tomorrow, and being very vague about everything. But I think I'm going to be firmly in the camp that he's just throwing Georgia off the scent. Not that Georgia's not going to prepare for Luke Doty, and Georgia's one of the only teams in the country that's actually seen Luke Doty firsthand, but the less they know, the better. And I'm thinking that's where I'm at. I don't know why else he would be playing coy about this situation other than not wanting to show Georgia. It's not like last week I was thinking he was being a little vague because he wasn't even sure who he wanted to start, and he wanted to give Zeb the chance, but the way Zeb played, there's no reason that he wouldn't want to play Luke Doty. It's not like Zeb earned himself the starting job this week, and Shane Beamer's just using the injury as an excuse to get a longer look at Zeb, which was my theory kind of last week, but there's no other reason really.
Yeah, speaking of being vague, though, you're talking about Beamer being vague. I think you're being vague. What are you saying? Who's going to start the game?
Oh, I think Zeb Nolan's going to start the game, and I'm not going to like it.
Do you think he'll play the whole game?
No, I think no matter what, both quarterbacks are playing.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought at the beginning of that thing, Beamer was kind of setting up for Doty to take over. I mean, I've said it, and I thought you agreed here, and maybe you still agree, that Nolan starting and then Doty coming in after that it doesn't make much sense to me.
Nope.
At all, but you think that's what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I'm not going to like it, and I don't think it makes sense, but that will be it. The one thing that the only way that this could play out that I might like it is that Zeb plays most of the game and then Doty plays like the second half and South Carolina climbs back into the game, and we can at least leave the game saying, oh man, if Doty would have played the whole game, we might have had a chance, huh? Just give us a glimmer of hope at the end of the game. That's the only way Doty coming in as a reliever could work out in our favor in the long term. But it won't make sense to me if Doty plays but doesn't start.
Day weighing in. Cool Care Heating and Air text line. People keep saying this game's always close. Last year wasn't close. 2018 wasn't close. 2017 was close for a half, but there was really never a doubt that Georgia was going to win. 2016 wasn't close until the fourth quarter for a few minutes. 2015 wasn't close. Historically, this game has been close, but the last half decade, it really hasn't been that much. Our win in 2019, the only close game for all 4 quarters. I'm with you, Day. Recency bias totally tells you. I think that's one of the reasons why Vegas is what it is. And I think in the all-time series, I believe Georgia would cover the spread from this week like 3 or 4 times in the whatever it is, 100-plus times these two teams have played. But I tend to agree with Day on this one, that a lot of us might be stuck, and I think Bill and I are there, Patrick, and you are not, because at 25 years old, you don't remember Brandon Bennett going over the top at Georgia.
Nope. You
don't remember Eric Zier being the Georgia quarterback playing against Todd Ellis back in the day. I think they overlapped. Not positive on that. A bunch of these games on paper, the classic 2000 game where Quincy Carter throws 5 interceptions and he was a Heisman candidate going in and he left, just kind of a laughing stock, and the Gamecocks program was really never the same after that in a good way. And Lou Holt's trajectory, the positive trajectory that led to Steve Spurrier and the whole deal, that 2012 game? Ace Sanders, seen that replay a couple of times. I know that's been our old-timey clip of the day as well, with Brent Musburger making the call, and you got the off-camera comments between Musburger and Herb Street in that game in 2012. Like, hey, man, this thing is shaking. We are moving, aren't we, at Williams-Brice? I think a lot of us are stuck on those games as opposed to what we've seen recently. Now, where I think it's completely different this year is those were Muschamp versus Kirby Smart games for the most part in the last several years. And Shea Beamer told us last night on Carolina Calls how different, how none of the schemes are the same, offense, defense, or special teams for South Carolina this year. The matchup, how these two teams and coaching staffs' philosophies match up, and how Beamer says that he thinks he has an advantage, if there is any advantage, between he and Will Muschamp and their history, knowing exactly what Kirby Smart's systems were when he coached there several years ago, and knowing that they haven't really changed. We'll see on Saturday night. 803-404-6100 is the number. Sport Court coming up. I am really looking forward to this one, because I think it really gets into exactly where the South Carolina program is right now as it pertains to bragging rights, both versus the in-conference rival in Georgia for this game and then the out-of-conference rival with Clemson. It's going to be a fun one. Patrick versus me in Sport Court coming up next. It's the early game. It's 107.5 the game.
College football
Clear.
are here.
Sometimes the crew is up against it. The brakes.
Oh, Patrick just leaving us. How dare he? Yep, I think you're right, Craig. Oh, popped in. For this game you're talking about, Alan? At Georgia? you got to have the love to be making the trip to Athens this week. I think Anthony might be the only one that we've seen so far, that I've seen so far. I'm guessing Jan's headed there as well. Alan, does that mean you're headed there and you have 2 tickets, but you're rolling solo? There she is.
Hey.
Just not here. She's on vacation. So just say what
All right, sounds good.
Then we can talk on live stream.
Sounds good.
Necessary closing costs.
Hi, Lisa.
The equity in your home. You have to
Hey.
transfer that money. Have your closing costs capture.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I got you just fine. You got the black T-shirt going. Strong.
Yeah, we got new black shirts.
And for the judge role, perfect.
Is Kelsey getting on?
Haven't heard from her this morning. Sent her the link, just like you.
Okay.
She has our studio number, or I can call her, I guess.
She does have the studio number. I sent it to her a little while ago.
Okay.
Earlier this week.
Okay.
So you might see some filibustering from me if she calls in during the segment.
Yeah, and I gotta answer the phone.
No problem.
Bill got a 1-week suspension after his performance last week.
Yes, Bill's off sport court. He's actually feeling not so well, so he's not doing the show this morning. So it's just me and Patrick with you, Lisa.
Okay.
And got your email about the words. Patrick's got the sound effect going or ready to go. And there's Kelsey. Hi, Kelsey.
Good morning.
Morning. So the audio situation is kind of tricky. As soon as we get out of this commercial, we'll just have you guys mute your speakers. You can, okay. And then we'll just talk on the phone. Cool?
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll sound goofy. Otherwise, Patrick, you got them both on the phone too? Patrick, you're muted now.
No. Kelsey, do you have the studio line number?
I do not.
Oh, okay. It's 803-404-6100.
Got it. Go ahead and dial it now, Patrick.
Yeah, you can dial it now.
Yeah, go ahead and give us a call now. We got 30 seconds. Plenty of time.
It can be more. There we go.
So, Lisa, I'll introduce you first, then our expert witness, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, and I'm going to announce the buzzwords.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yes, I can hear you. And then go ahead and mute on the web.
Yeah, you guys go ahead and take your computer speakers out so we won't get too much of a feedback.
This is going to be fun. I like where we're at right now. If you've been talking about this Georgia and Carolina game, you can't talk about this game, in my opinion, without talking about what Georgia and Clemson, what happened in week number 1. And that's what we're going to get into. It is our new weekly segment. This is segment number 3. It's sponsored by Lawyer Lisa. It is Sport Court. There we go. Today, the issue at hand in Sport Court. Bragging rights. Does Carolina just need to score more than 3 points, what Clemson did against Georgia, to earn bragging rights against their in-state rivals? Patrick will be arguing for. I will be arguing against. Lawyer Lisa is presiding, as always, here in Sport Court. Lisa, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing okay. I like your positive attitude going into this. She's wearing the new black Lawyer Lisa shirt on the video stream. We can catch us on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Twitter as well. Can you tell the court, tell the jury, if you will, exactly what Lawyer Lisa does?
Well, today we're going to talk about it, and I have a few key terms for you to use in your arguments for that might help persuade me when I make my ruling today. But as you know, we are an estate planning firm as part of what we do, and that means that we create wills and trusts and powers of attorney for our clients to help them in case, whatever happens in their life, whether they get sick or they need somebody to help, just help them out later on in life. So those are going to be your key terms today for, again, to help persuade me is if you say will or trust in your argument. And then I've got a bonus one, our life care planning. So if you say long-term plan, that's a buzzword.
Ooh, okay. I'm hearing will, trust, and long-term plan. And Patrick is producing today in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. If those words pop up, Patrick, the sound for extra credit will be what exactly, sir? There it is. One more time. Let's hear it nice and loud. Okay. If you hear the ding, that means we have earned extra credit in our arguments because we're using the buzzwords from Lawyer Lisa, will, trust, and long-term plan. And in these proceedings, we have an expert witness joining us as well. Kelsey Carter from Camp Cole, one of the co-founders. Camp Cole is named after your brother, Kelsey. We really appreciate you joining us. For those who are unfamiliar with Camp Cole, can you give them the backstory about what you guys are doing, the great work at Camp Cole?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me today. Really appreciate 107.5 The Game. You guys have been such big supporters, and same to Lawyer Lisa. Thank you both for being a part of our team. Camp Cole really started when my brother was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and we had a camp experience that really changed our lives. The unfortunate part about that is that camp and retreats are really built for able-bodied, healthy children. And that's where Camp Cole is different, is that we have a state-of-the-art medical care facility on site. And so this summer alone, we were able to open our doors to 500 campers that had a range of different physical and intellectual challenges. So we're in the Midlands area, open year-round, and just excited to serve our community.
And we're excited to have you here, Kelsey Carter from Camp Cole, our expert witness. And Patrick, we'll let you have the expert witness first. Patrick arguing for the fact that Gamecock football can earn bragging rights over Clemson if they score more than 3 points in this ball game. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it will, of course, give them bragging rights. Clemson was absolutely pathetic against Georgia. 2 rushing yards. We've already talked about that. Georgia absolutely imposed their will against that Clemson offense. 2 yards rushing, five-star players all over the field, and they could do absolutely nothing against this Georgia team. 180 total yards. DJ Ucla, I think I got that right, was supposed to be the second coming. The Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence to DJ. There was going to be no let-off. He was terrible. 19 of 37, threw a pick. Just awful. They couldn't muster anything on offense. So, of course, if South Carolina can get points on the board in Athens, Clemson played them in Charlotte, which is basically Clemson's second home field at this point since they play there every December in the ACC Championship. If South Carolina at night in Sanford Stadium can muster 3 points equal or more than Clemson did, it will absolutely be a success.
Your Honor, may I give my opening statement?
Yes, I'd like to hear from you, Tim.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you just heard was a bunch of garbage. Absolute garbage. A loser's mentality. What, you want to be better than the team who didn't play well? That's your goal? To me, if you do that as a first-year head coach, you lose the trust from your fan base. You also clearly don't have much of a long-term plan. Let's call our first witness. Patrick, she's all yours.
Well, Kelsey, how many rushing yards did Clemson have against Georgia?
Not many, Patrick. Not many at all.
2. Was Clemson a top 5 ranked team in the country at the beginning of the season?
They were.
Clemson,
they were a top 5 ranked team.
Has Clemson been in the college football playoff? I don't even know how many years it is now. 4 years in a row? 5 years in a row?
Unfortunately, yes.
And has South Carolina won 4 games over the last 2 seasons?
You know what? When there's a will, there's a way.
Love that. I think the case is clear. Clemson is one of, if not the premier program in college football right now. If South Carolina can match their output, they're absolutely able to hang their hats on that. And especially if they can do it in the first start this year of Luke Doty, who is their long-term plan at the quarterback position, even though some people might think that the coaching staff doesn't trust him as much as Zeb Noland. You gotta feel good about it. This Georgia defense, no one is higher on Georgia than me right now. I picked them to win the college football playoff months ago. I think they're incredible. Their Will linebacker, Nakobe Dean, is arguably the best defensive player in the country. He's just flies around. They've got Jordan Davis, the largest man in college football probably, and just transfer Tyke Smith, who might play his first game this year, will make it only more difficult.
Your Honor, we got a witness on the stand, and we just have a gas baggy hot take by the counselor there.
All right, your witness.
All right,
your witness.
Sustain. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Ms. Carter, thank you for being here today. I really admire your work with Camp Cole. I apologize for the unprofessionalism by my
objection, sucking up
by your plaintiff's attorney there. Clearly, doesn't even know that the Gamecocks won 6 combined games in the last 2 years instead of 4, and asking you exactly how many rushing yards. Come on, what are you doing, Ms. Carter? Do you want the Gamecocks to be a winning program?
Absolutely.
Do you trust Shane Beamer?
Sure do. He breathes new life into our team.
How do you feel about his long-term plan?
I feel really confident about it, especially in this game with it being SEC. It's what he's worked so hard to get to, and I think he's going to reach a brand new success this game.
Ms. Carter, I appreciate your time here, your contributions to the court. I leave you with this one question. Do you believe in Gamecock moral victories?
Always.
Interesting answer. Very.
That one backfired. Answer. Also, I don't think you deserve the dings because you asked them in a question. I think you have to use them as a point and not a question. So I take the dings back.
I think I make the rules here, Patrick.
Oh,
well done, Your Honor.
I'll sit back down.
All right, I believe we're ready for closing arguments. Sound good to you, Your Honor, Lawyer Lisa?
Yes, it is.
All right, Patrick, please go ahead.
Listen, as our expert witness says, moral victories are a thing. If you're South Carolina right now, you need everything that you can get, and you've not had anything to compare yourself to with Clemson for the last 5 years since I've been here, basically, and put the curse on South Carolina in 2015. It's just been all downhill. This is the one chance that you have in 3 weeks apart from each other, I guess 2 weeks, 3 games, to actually go head to head and compare your stats with Clemson's. If you can score 3 points, have more than 2 yards rushing, you have done better than Clemson has. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, sir. I admire your tenacity. I admire your attempt at making an argument here before the court, but I scoff at your professionalism and your execution, sir. Think about it, Gamecock fans out there. Do you want to be a winning program, or do you want to be a moral victory program? I'm not trying to disparage our expert witness here. Not trying to disparage Miss Carter at all. She seems like a very upstanding young lady. She was not an expert, though, in SEC football. It sounded a lot like an ACC football perspective to me. If you can get moral victories. South Carolina knows moral victories don't. It doesn't cut it in the SEC. That might cut it in the ACC, where you can play 0 ranked teams the rest of the way in 2021. South Carolina's got 5, maybe 6 if Kentucky gets ranked. You don't want a moral victory. You don't want to lower yourself down to an ACC fan this season. Shane Beamer, if anything, if you trust in his long-term plan, if you believe he has the will to win and bring this program to the top. Don't lower yourself down to Clemson's level and claim bragging rights if you score 4 points on Saturday night. You think that's something to brag about? I think that's the wrong attitude to take with South Carolina football.
You get 3.5 points for being
Your Honor, objection.
3
What is
points
this?
for being the
What is
home
this?
team. 3 points actually equals 6 points.
Where's the bailiff? We need a bailiff in this situation.
Where are you,
A
John?
victory is a victory.
Well done. man.
Moral or otherwise.
Well done. Well done. All right. I believe we're ready for Lawyer Lisa and her final ruling.
Yes, this one wasn't hard for me at all. I liked your use of our terms. It is important to know about wills and trusts and have a long-term plan. And that's really, the Gamecocks need a long-term plan. And a good long-term plan is not planning to score 3 points. It is not. So my ruling is that the Gamecocks need to score more than 3 points this weekend, and they need to be building their program and working towards getting towards a bowl game. So in this one, I'm sorry, but Tim is our clear winner today.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will not rub it in. Most of the credit goes to our expert witness. CampCole.org is the place to go. Kelsey Carter, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, y'all. Go Gamecocks.
LawyerLisa.com as well, where you can get all your real estate law, estate planning simplified. You can learn much more about wills, trusts, and long-term plans. Lawyer Lisa, thank you. And that check continues to be in the mail, that weekly check I've been mailing you for these rulings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys did a great job. It was a lot better than normal.
Wonder why.
I think that is the cue for our ending sport court music without Bill Gunter this week. What a shot Lawyer Lisa leads on. I love it. She clearly has learned how to do sports talk radio. You take shots when people aren't here. Patrick, there we go. Sport Court every Friday, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa right here on the early game. When we come back, thoughts from Shane Beamer, last night's Carolina calls, Carolina, Georgia. Love to hear your thoughts as well at 803-404-6100. It's the early game here on 107.5.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn State into the home.
Great work, guys. You can unmute your stuff now. We can talk on here. Lisa, good job.
That was good. I like that.
Good. It was a great idea to get the terms in there.
Yeah, it really drew your attention towards it.
For sure. Patrick was dinging like crazy.
Yeah,
Kelsey,
that was good, Patrick. Thanks. Except for the mustache. What are you doing over there, man?
We're done on the phone, Kelsey. You can just go on the computer now. How dare you, Lisa? How dare you?
I'm getting a haircut right after this show, too. It's going to look better with the haircut in combination.
Really?
Bill was trying to convince me to make it a handlebar, but I can't do it. I can't.
You know, growing up, my dad had a handlebar mustache.
It's not
in the 90s.
Scarred. He's scarred.
I did promise whoever's on the live stream can tell, but I did say that if South Carolina wins, I'm immediately going to get on our live stream and I'll shave it after the game.
But I wouldn't worry about that.
We'll see about that one.
So, Kelsey, are you plus or minus on the mustache there for Patrick?
I think Patrick's going to have to shave it. You got to believe to receive, you know? I think we got to believe that we can win this.
I hope it happens for that sake. But I have been working on it for like 3 months now, so I'm in deep now. I think I'm going to ride it out till Christmas. And then 2022 will be a new start.
I like it. So, Lisa, please make this a thing every week. Just make fun of his mustache.
Oh yeah,
that can be a thing.
I can do that.
I'll make periodical mustache bets throughout the year.
That
can
sounds
be our bargaining chip.
Maybe it'll be my next order.
Oh no!
Love it.
If I lose next week on Sport Court.
Yeah.
High stakes.
We'll be back, so that won't be an issue.
We'll think of something good.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right,
we'll get this out on the social media, the audio, and the video version will always be kind of archived on YouTube as well. So thanks for helping us out.
Sounds good. Good job, Kelsey.
Yeah, great work.
Y'all, I was like trying to study up last night. My husband was making so much fun of me.
He actually really put you on the spot, man. That was
the moral victory. I was like, oh God.
You did great.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Am I good to just hit the leave studio?
Yeah, you'll be good there.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, I gotta do this other traffic report real quick.
Excellent take there, Clint. That's where, I mean, if Patrick had any kind of counseling abilities, legal abilities, he would have taken his argument there. Unfortunately, he was too concerned about actually producing the radio show with the sound effects. I mean, it was unfair advantage on my part. Patrick, you're in a tough spot over there, having to push all the buttons, making sure everything was correct. Tough spot.
Yeah. Oh well.
But you did well. And Clint, I completely agree. Outside of Lawyer Lisa's Sport Court, I'm with you on that one, because you gotta understand where the program is. Steve Spurrier's in here, and this is 2012. Boy, what can you imagine that conversation? But we ain't there.
All right. We are still doing the traffic reports for WMG, right?
Yep. Alex, hadn't heard from this Clemson fan before.
All right, we're back. 2 minutes. You're up.
Much like that last segment we did, Patrick, I feel like you earned a moral victory there. Because when Bill joins us in Sport Court, he's doing it from home. He's just worried about talking and presenting his case. You had all the odds against you there. You're pushing buttons, making sure the audio is good, doing the sound effects, the whole thing, and still arguing your case, which I thought, it left some to be desired, but considering. And I think that's kind of where Gamecock fans are. Considering where they are right now. Clint says, I'm anti-moral victory. That mindset, 100%. And on the Facebook live stream, he continues, however, I'm also painfully aware of where the Gamecock program is right now. And like a lot of Carolina fans out there at this point, I'll take any positive signs that the program is moving in the right direction. That's basically what you were saying, Patrick, correct? You're all in with Clint there. And outside of Lawyer Lisa's Sport Court, I'm with Clint there as well. With that being said, I also understand Troy, even though Troy is a Clemson fan, he says, laughing out loud, 42-10 would not be better than 10-3. Well, this year, offensively at least, I think you can take some positive momentum out of better performance than Clemson had against Georgia from a scoreboard standpoint. Just to completely go back on what I was saying. And, if I'm going to pretend to be a lawyer, I might as well go all in with the being hypocritical. No, shot. Sorry. My dad and sister are lawyers. Just taking shots at this morning. A cover. Yeah, exactly. And a cover. You cover the spread. That would be better than Clemson did for sure. Clemson
was a favorite. Clemson was a favorite and lost outright.
Again. And this is where Clemson fans hold all the advantage, right, over recent history and success and the whole thing. That's where, Patrick, I thought that's where you're going to go as well. Anything that Gamecock fans can have to hold on to at this point.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Onto it. I get it. I get that completely. And it is just where the programs are. But you can't get a snowball going without some kind of positive momentum to start. And maybe 2-0 against Eastern Illinois and East Carolina is that small little snowball that you want to get rolling, and you got to keep that thing rolling and keep it getting larger and larger. And scoring more than 3 points is a pretty modest goal, but doing it against Georgia this year, maybe not. 803-404-6100. Love to hear from you. Hour number 3 coming up next. Going to talk some high school football, going to make some college football picks. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5. Thank you, Alex. That was kind of you to say, sir. Love to hear from you as much as possible. I think it's a lot more fun when Clemson fans do join in on the show, as long as they understand where they're coming from and just don't completely repeat the same things day after day.
So you want me to just call Chris in the first couple minutes? Is that how we do this?
Yeah.
Or do we take him right off the top?
No, about 8:05 is good. How about I'll plan on getting it going with Mike, and then maybe while I'm on with him, can you call?
Yeah.
That sound good?
Yep.
I'll give you a little leeway. I'm glad you got the camera set up this way too. I feel like we could all get the full appreciation for how much you got going on.
See everything that's going on there.
Yeah, Jen's camera angle leaves out everything else she's doing behind the scenes. It's kind of like the man behind the curtain kind of thing with Oz.
She puts her phone right here.
Right. So then you can see exactly where she's typing and the 2 different computers she's working at. Like Patrick, you have it on the computer right now? The monitor?
No, I have my laptop just on the counter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then you have another computer to the right of where you're looking at us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's another computer right here. That's the traffic map that I use for traffic.
But then the Vox Pro computer is where? Right, even another one. There you go. So this is everything he's got going on in there.
That's where we screen calls. That's our caller. That's there, Mike, and this is where
Getting the full studio tour this morning.
It's intimidating the first time you look at it.
So if you're ever, it might sound a little goofy or a little delay. There are a couple of different computers he's working with. Hey, Charles. Do you not understand how records work?
They have more victories than Clemson.
Now, the odds of Patrick being able to say that again, probably not good. But you can say it is I believe that is fact talking, Gamecock Larry would call it, and not trash talk.
It's a moment in time.
I mean, that's just wrong fact talking and poor trash talking. That's 0 for 2, man. You could at least be 1-1. Oh, that shot.
My mom is sitting down right now to take her test to get licensed in South Carolina.
Oh, wow. For real estate?
No, for pharmacy.
That would make more sense, seeing that she's a pharmacist. Yeah, for sure. Glad to have the Peretts coming on down. Do they have a house picked out? Patrick, I know they're ready to move out of their house, but do they have one down here already? Or did you just freeze on me? I think he froze on me. That'd be impressive if he didn't. I asked too many personal questions, and Patrick's dad, Perry, just pulled the plug. That's fair. So it's hilarious to see some Clemson reaction to that last segment. I don't see it. Troy, seriously?
Never get a full 3 hours on this Wi-Fi. Got 2.
I was asking, have the parents have they found a house?
No, they've looked at some, but nothing that's perfect yet. I think they're going to come back down pretty soon to look at a couple more.
Good for them, not rushing into it.
Yeah, I mean, they have their current house until November. And worst case, they can rent for a little while, though they definitely don't want to do that. All right. You have numbers or want the numbers for the games we're going to pick?
No, I'll let you in that segment since it's just you and me, if you're cool with that.
Yeah. Our caller dropped.
Got it.
Yes. Calling to the bottom of the hour. Never works.
Let's do the quick Georgia one from Beamer off the top here.
Okay.
Well, good players too, whatever I had it labeled at.
We're a good team too.
There goes the water. Oh. Thanks, Charles, I think. Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure this hour. Interesting time to leave right before we go on. That's true. That's true, Troy. Hey, Beamer, last night, Carolina calls from Learfield Sports right here on 107.5 The Game. Welcome into hour number 3 of the early game. Tim Hill and Patrick Perrette with you this morning. Bill and Jen are out. Bill's not feeling well. If you could send some good thoughts or tweets his way, would appreciate that. At Will Gunter with 1L on Twitter, where you can find him. I'm at Tim Hill 1075 the game, or at Tim Hill 1075 to keep it a little bit more simple on Twitter. Right now, we've got the poll question up and rolling, and man, I thought this thing would even out a little bit more, but it looks like it has spread out a little bit more at the top. What'll happen tomorrow night between the hedges with the Gamecocks and Georgia? Georgia winning, but not covering. Winning relatively comfortably, but not covering is far and away our leader. Almost half of the votes at 48.6% right now. Georgia wins by 14 to 29 points. Second place, Georgia covers, winning by 30 or more with 22% of the vote. And the Gamecocks get the upset, and Georgia wins a relatively close one by 1 to 13 points. Really close for third place in today's poll question. Again, you can go and vote at Tim Hill 1075 on Twitter. What's going to happen tomorrow? Patrick, as you sit here right now, you're thinking Zeb Nolan gets the start, Luke Doty plays, and how does the game go exactly?
So I am thinking that Zeb Nolan starts. The offense is stagnant, a couple 3-and-outs. Georgia put some points on the board and just getting nothing going. And I think they would give him the whole first quarter, probably no matter what. And then the second quarter, maybe that's when we see Luke Doty come in and try to give a little spark to the offense. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong. And I'm hoping that we can look back on Saturday night and say, okay, yeah, this was all talk. Beamer was just playing coy so that Georgia would not game plan or whatever advantage you get from just not announcing who the starting quarterback is going to be.
And it's going to be Luke Doty's game. And hopefully Luke Doty can play the whole game, but I think no matter what, this game's going to get to a point where both quarterbacks are going to have to play.
Well, let's go ahead and hear the latest from what Shane Beamer had to say about Luke Doty. Last night, Carolina Calls right here on 107.5 The Game, courtesy of Learfield Sports. Here's Shane Beamer and Todd Ellis.
Make up stuff about Luke and tell people what they want to hear and stuff like that. I'm being truthful when I sit up here every week. Luke was sore last week. If Luke had to have gone in that game, we could have thrown him in there. Would he have been 100%? No. Would he have been able to run and show the athleticism that he has last week? No. Luke is not sore today. Now, does that mean he doesn't wake up tomorrow and be sore? I don't know. But Luke practiced today. Luke practiced yesterday. Luke practiced Tuesday. He hasn't been sore all week. He practiced all 11, meaning when the offense is on the field against a defense, he was out there and got some reps today. Again, I'm not going to put Luke out there before Luke can be effective doing what Luke needs to do. So having said that, I think Luke is as close. I know Luke is as close to 100% as he's been since he got hurt. He has practiced this week and has looked good. There is no soreness, and we anticipate him being able to play on Saturday night.
So after hearing that, I'm not going to be surprised if Doty starts and plays the whole game, or we don't see Luke Doty at all. Because when I hear Shane Beamer say no soreness, and last week his big explanation for Luke Doty not playing was soreness, then I can see that happening. I can also, I feel like he drew me back a little bit at the end there as well, saying that he was on the field and doing some 11-11, getting some reps. That definitely wasn't the, hey, Luke Doty's going to be the guy that I think you've been waiting for, Patrick. I haven't been waiting for that specifically. I have been waiting for no soreness and something that I haven't heard before to believe Luke Doty is going to get out there. But I'll continue to maintain, though. I think it's worst case scenario from the quarterback perspective if Zeb Nolan starts and then you get Luke Doty out there. That, to me, doesn't make a bunch of sense going against this defense. Like, if Doty's your best shot to win, get him out there. Get it going right from the beginning and show him that confidence that he's the guy. Because I think it's a bit of a mixed message if Zeb Nolan starts and then Luke Doty comes in. Like, is he the guy or not?
Oh, yeah.
If it gives you the best chance to win, why are you waiting? He's already been on the sideline. He's been in pads. He's warmed up in the first couple of games. It's not like he hasn't been in the atmosphere. He started last year against Georgia. It's one of his 2 career starts, so it's not like he hasn't been in this situation before. I guess you could argue on the road, right? Was at Kentucky last year. I think that was the last game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not at Georgia, no doubt. But if Luke Doty's going to be the face of your program and your guy moving forward, you want that under his belt, right? At Georgia on a Saturday night when they're maybe the most talented they've ever been, get it going, because to me, you get more with that with your program. And I believe this has been Heath Klein's take on it. I don't go quite as far as Heath saying, well, no matter what, in 10 games, 11 games with a bowl game possibly, that Zeb Nolan's career is going to be over. So why don't you go ahead and start investing more in Luke Doty? Well, to me, it's all about who gives you the best chance to win. And you got to play for 2021 and not the overall picture. But I think from everything we've learned and from what I've seen from Zeb Nolan through 2 games, doesn't change my mind that Luke Doty is your best chance to win football games. But I think tomorrow night will tell us a lot, Patrick, about where this coaching staff is. And again, not telling us in the words that we hear in press conferences and in Carolina calls. That's one thing. What happens between the lines in games, to me, does the loudest talking for any coaching staff in college football.
Yeah, for sure. And to the point about your take and Heath's take, I would agree that play the guy that gives you the best chance, but I would also say if it's close or if it's a tie, basically, which it seems to be, the tie should be broken by the guy who has 4 years of eligibility left and is supposed to be the future of your program, not the guy whose career was rejuvenated out of nowhere and is going to end at the end of this season. So, yeah, and I think if you start Zeb, you are sending a message to your team and fan base that he gives you a better chance to win and that he is the better quarterback. I mean, that's what being the starting quarterback is. If Luke plays but doesn't start, I don't know how you talk around, hey, he's still our guy. We still think he is our starting quarterback going forward, but we still decide to start Zeb. Like, the starting quarterback, if they're both healthy, is the guy that the coaches believe in more, and that's just, I can't see it any other way.
A couple of you guys see it maybe from slightly different perspectives. Kevin says this isn't a quarterback competition. If Luke is healthy, he plays. It's that simple. RL says it doesn't sound like Luke's starting. If Luke's healthy and was the starter before the injury, why would he not start this game? So kind of seeing it, I guess, pretty similarly there. Hope says, I do wish they would start Luke to see how he feels out there. Put Zeb in if you have to. We're going out to the Love Chevy phone lines right now, not because we have to, because we want to. Our buddy Chris Deering joining us now to talk a little high school football on Friday night. And the schedule continues to get juggled. Chris, this has got to be the most discombobulated first month or so of the season in high school football that we've ever seen. I thought it would be last year. Turns out this year has been more of mixing and matching and cancellations and last-minute fill-ins and the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking this morning, one of the last things I do before I get on the air with you guys is scroll through Twitter real quick to make sure there's nothing I need to know going into this segment, because there could be some changes, as recent as this morning. And haven't seen anything this morning, but we did have a few yesterday once again. And I tell a lot of people as I'm driving out to a school wherever I'm going on Friday night, until I see both teams warming up, I'm a little hesitant to really know where I'm going. I might have to take a detour and pick another game because things might change on my ride out there. So it's been a little bit crazy. But, again, these teams are fighting through it. Don't know if you saw this last night. This was some news from late last night. The Shrine Bowl has stepped in and said they are putting the game on hold at this point, which I don't know exactly what that means. Not sure why that statement's made 3 months in advance of when the game's being played. That was a sort of a head scratcher for me last night. So might not have a Shrine Bowl for a second season in a row. The North-South game, as far as I know on that one, that was still in line to be played in mid-December, but just hard to say where this thing is going at this point. And teams are getting ready to. There are some teams starting region play tonight, and some in the next week or two, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they handle region play and how they could juggle schedules at this point.
I mentioned it last year, Chris, that high school football by far has the biggest challenge in this situation, dealing with COVID and protocols and the resources that they have. And I was amazed at how last year went as smoothly as it did in the state of South Carolina, especially knowing other states, just North Carolina to the north, push things all the way back to the spring. It seems like it has just been pushed back to this year where all the complications now that they're dealing with. And we talked about it before about the frustration from coaches and dealing with all this and the whole thing. Let's put that to the side real quick and get down to the actual football that will happen tonight. What are some of the good matchups that you see out there and expecting some good games?
There are three games that really stand out this week in the Midlands. With the way the things that have sort of been juggled around, some games got postponed and canceled tonight, but there are three games that really just stand out. Defending 4A champion AC Flora is going to Camden tonight. Camden played in the 3A state championship game last year. They were the runners up. So there would be a lot of talent on the field in that game. I've talked to Dustin Curtis several times this year, and he keeps telling me that this defense might be a little bit better than last year's, and last year's was pretty damn good, Tim. That defense was front last year. Every one of those kids is playing in college right now, and he had to replace them. But the back seven, a lot of those guys came back. Terrell Green he's really stood out to me as one of the best class of 2020 players this year. He's been a 3-year starter at AC Flora. Camden, again, they got a lot of talent. They can run the football. Both you and I have been to Zemp Stadium. The atmosphere is going to be over there. That's just going to be a great high school football setting.
Chris,
another game that stands out to me.
Before you get to game number 2, I'm glad you mentioned Zemp Stadium there at Camden. If you guys are listening this morning and you want to go just to a high school football game in the area, and maybe you're in the city limits or not too far away from Columbia, make that trip to Camden, man. Totally worth it. Totally recommend it. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's something else. It's again, I love going over to Camden. It's one of my favorite stadiums to go to. And then another game tonight, Brooklyn Casey is in Chapin. They're playing at Chapin tonight. Two teams are ranked. Chapin's, I think, number 6 in the latest Class 5A poll. Brooklyn Casey went last week and went up to Chapman. A game I think a lot of people didn't think they had a chance to win, and they won that game. So I think they moved up to number 4, I believe, in Class 3A. Tanner Stanton, the quarterback over at Tanner Stockton, I think his name is, over at Brooklyn Casey. He's been really good this year. And Chapin's got the three-headed monster in quarterback Jaden Bradford. He's a sophomore. He's actually going to Penn State tomorrow for the Penn State-Auburn game on a recruiting trip. Xavier Short, a receiver for Chapin, and Bennett Galloway, a running back. Those guys have been putting up big numbers, and I expect that game to get into the 50s easily. I don't see any other way around that one. And then the final game for the weekend, I think that really stands out in the Midlands is Dutch Fork. They're going on the road again. I don't think they've played a home game yet. They're going to Greenwood. Greenwood's ranked in the top 5 in Class 5A. They've been really good this year. Dutch Fork, we all know what they've done, the 52-game unbeaten streak. But that's a challenge going up to Greenwood. They've gone up to Burns. They played teams that they don't normally play. They didn't get to play Gaffney like expected, but that's a challenge for Dutch Fork, and let's see if they can go on the road and win another one.
And Greenwood, ton of history there for sure. Remember the old Ricardo Hurley days a couple of decades ago, I guess it is now. But that will be interesting. I feel like every time I say something like that in this segment with you about Dutch Fork, they might get a challenge tonight. They rise to that thing and put a smackdown on people. I know Greenwood going to do everything they can tonight to make sure that doesn't happen. Hope wanted to get in on the YouTube live stream, Chris, that Saluda at 3-0 going to host Raven from Georgia tonight. Another good game to watch, but appreciate the 3 that you pointed out. Totally agree. Those are some solid matchups and then some tonight for high school football that is going through quite the challenge in the 2021 season. He's Chris Deering at cdeering82 on Twitter, where you can follow him. You can also follow his work, Prep Red Zone, as well. Chris, appreciate the time as always. You got a Carolina-Georgia prediction, and what do you think about the quarterback situation as you go out today?
Quarterback situation, I'm a little bit with you guys. I'm not really sure where it's going into at this point. I thought last week Zeb was the right choice. if there's no soreness in Luke and he's running around and practicing, I think at this point he's got to be your starter. If not, again, there's something that's going on that we just don't know about. So I think you got to go with Luke this week if he's healthy enough to play, and just let him play. But as far as the game, I think the 32 or 31 points, whatever it is now, that's a pretty big number. I don't think this defense for South Carolina is getting enough credit. Obviously, they're going to be challenged tomorrow, but I do think that they're going to be up to the challenge. I don't think South Carolina can go in there and win in Athens, but I think they can have a decent showing. And, and morale and all that stuff is don't go for anything, but it make you feel good coming back home to play Kentucky in a week, and hopefully you can win that game and be 3-1 after these first four.
So I'm hearing another vote with where most people have gone on today's poll question. Chris, Georgia wins by 14-29. Georgia wins relatively comfortably, but doesn't cover. Is that where you're at?
That's where I'm at. Absolutely. I actually gave a score yesterday of 27-10. So
there you go. Chris Deering, appreciate the time as always and the high school football knowledge, especially at CDeering82. Again, where you can follow Chris on Twitter. That is a very fair, I think, breakdown of Carolina, Georgia, which we're going to continue to do here on the program. That QB1, QB2 thing right now. Several of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line that you think you might be reading the tea leaves or hearing specific things from Shane Beamer make you think one thing or the other. Matt says, started to think Zeb is beat out Doty for QB1, and he's not the only one. Ted says Luke is QB2. It's a touchy situation because Zeb is a much better passer. Again, I don't know how you guys are making these determinations with not being able to watch practice. And then remember, through 2.5 quarters last week, I thought it was obvious that the Gamecocks have to get Luke Doty to run their offense to have any kind of success. But again, I think it's the other side of the ball that is the more interesting perspective going into this game. Like Chris kind of touched on there, the Gamecock defense not getting enough credit. Well, you can't give credit from an SEC standpoint to a defense that's only played Eastern Illinois and East Carolina. You can give the defense a bunch of credit if you play well against Georgia. And if that happens, Carolina can have a chance to feel good about itself. But this is the test for sure. The first real big test for Clayton White and company, who have been outstanding to this point in the season, Patrick. Can you do it against a Georgia team that couldn't score points against Clemson, but then looked really good on offense with Stetson Bennett running the show last week against UAB? Speaking of Georgia, obviously that Georgia-Carolina game going to be one of the 5 that we pick in our weekly college football pick segment. That's coming up next, and I think it's an underrated slate. Patrick was complaining about it on the live video stream a little earlier this morning. I think we got a solid football day for us, and it's spread out nicely again. The college football slate tomorrow, from sitting at home and watching it standpoint for sure. We'll take you through it when we come back. 803-404-6100 if you would like to weigh in. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game.
All right, can't see.
And free of charge.
Free of charge.
In your car.
Free of charge.
Online.
Free of charge.
On the app and streaming on your smart speaker.
Free of charge.
107.5
The Game.
Foundational issues. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about Gamecock football at this point and what we might learn this weekend. It's also what Canty is an expert. Canty Foundation Specialist. They're the specialist for a reason. CantyCanFixIt.com is the place to go to find out all the information about what Canty can do for you. Here's what they tell me you need to know about your own home and possible foundation issues. If you see cracks in the exterior brick or in your walls, above windows or door frames, you might have an issue. If you have doors or windows that stick, uneven or bouncy floors, cracks over your garage door, you need to call Canty or just go to CantyCanFixIt.com, because I've had foundation issues in my home before, and it is a terrible feeling. But I realized that I just made it worse by not immediately talking to an expert, because I was just thinking it was the absolute worst and would cost a ridiculous amount of money, when I actually got an expert out there to diagnose the problem like Canty will do for you. Well, then it wasn't that bad. it turned out to, it's one of those things where the unknown is a lot worse than the actual known. Get Canty Foundation specialists out to your house. If you have any of those issues that I talked about, if you go down to your crawl space and you can feel that there's some humidity and condensation, man, you don't want any extra problems leading from that, like mold, mildew, pests, including termites. You don't want any of that. Let Canty help you right now. Canty Foundation specialists. CantyCanFixIt.com.
Clear. And from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true.
.1075 The Game is sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
Sponsored by Indeed.com. Hitting speed bumps in your hiring process? Streamline your route to hired with Indeed. They're hiring.
Am I still on here? Sorry about that. You got a big internet issue. I don't see Patrick at all. It's got a black screen now. Patrick, that's not cool. We both hit internet issues at the same time here. Sorry about that. River Bluff at home tonight. Allen's pumping up the program. I got no problem with that. Yeah, Brooklyn, Casey, Chapin should be a good one. Thanks, Carlton.
Connection's falling apart out here now.
No doubt, huh? So it's better with 4 people as opposed to 2? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, the studio Wi-Fi is better from 6 to 8 than it is from 8 to 9.
Weird. All right, we'll just go through the slate here and make our picks afterwards, and that should take us to the final break, right?
Yep.
Sounds good. Appreciate you holding it down there today. Nice work pushing the buttons.
Fridays are easy.
And fun. Especially Carolina, Georgia week. Even with a 32-point spread or whatever it is.
Your heating and air unit probably one of the most important parts of your house.
Yeah, Chad, we went over that before. Can you show Chad where Jen puts her cell phone? Oh,
Yeah, it's her
Jen's
little
setup is the
She
same.
puts hers right here, and it's
She
just
just puts her cell phone right there.
She's not even in the shop most of the time because she's doing stuff on the computer.
Right. So she's kind of set up actually where we sit in the studio. We sit right behind her cell phone. There's a glass above, and then that's the other part of the studio that we sit in. There you go. Oh, what a tour. What a tour guide you are. What a host. And then I'm guessing that means that Chad didn't see the rest of the studio. You want to show him, flip him the other monitors in there? Is that the producer?
The editing computer, the call screen computer, and editing computer. My internet computer. That's runs a commercial log and has all the buttons and all that stuff, and my board.
Attaboy. Just found the live stream. Feels like my productivity is going to take a dip. Hey, you can also watch the whole thing at any point. Archives automatically on YouTube and Facebook. And what should we refer to you as? C? Should we just go with C? And yeah, hope
Someone's getting
leading our subscribers on YouTube.
Someone's getting a tour right now behind me.
That seems rude, Alan. I think Jen can set it up however she feels good with.
I was trying to get her to use the webcam on this computer right here.
Right. That would be the easiest, but not a great view. This is definitely the best view.
Yeah. can move.
If we ever get it set up to where we can set up webcams, that's where I'd like this one to be. What about you?
Yeah, like in the corner.
Yeah, maybe higher up. Yeah.
Yeah, looking down would be nice.
What if you could get it to where you could also see the studio a little bit in the background too? That would be the money, right?
I mean, it would look better on a real camera, but like up here.
Right there would be awesome, huh? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Carson, you got it, Carson. Not a boy. Well, we can only call you Carson though if you have confirmed that you've subscribed on the YouTube page. Otherwise, it's gonna be that guy. Hope you feel like you're part of the family now, Chad. But thanks for not.
Our last break is actually going to be very short because it's set to have Bill's lives in there.
Gotcha.
And there's 2 in that set. So.
And do I have one? Or am I good?
No, you're done. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
So we can push this thing pretty far if we need to.
Gotcha. Will you make sure put it in an email would be best about the lives that got missed today?
Yeah.
So we make sure to make them up. So, Patrick, let's do the Shane and Kirby sound right here off the top.
Assistant coach at in 2017 when we won the SEC, and they've got an assistant coach that was sitting in this chair last year at this time that I'm in right now. So it is unique from that standpoint. Will certainly knows, our personnel schemes, because we're completely different in all 3 phases. But he could walk in there and maybe talk about, the strengths and weaknesses of Darius Rush or Aaron Sterling or Kevin Harris or whatever. But I don't, at the end of the day, I don't know how much that's going to matter. I certainly had a fantastic time in Athens working for Kirby, learned a lot from him, and I'm very, very fortunate for my time that I had there. If anything, maybe a little bit more of an advantage for us because they haven't changed systems. Offensively, they've got a different coordinator from when I was there, but maybe some of the things that Kirby believes in as a head coach, things that I know he practices, tricks and the way he thinks. And I took notes in every single staff meeting we ever had, and anything that came out of his mouth, I have. Now, is that going to help us on Saturday night? I don't know. Maybe something does, but at the end, players on the field, and they've got a bunch of really good ones, and so do we.
Shane Beamer last night with Todd Ellis on Carolina Calls, courtesy of Learfield Sports. You heard it right here on 107.5 The Game. Welcome into the final 30 minutes or so of the week here on the early game. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette with you. Glad you're a part of the show. And now is the time to break down the entire college football slate. As you heard, I don't know. I guess it can be a question. We're hyping it up there on the live video stream. Bigger advantage, Beamer or Muschamp? Classic first take. I guess that's where you say one or the other, and then I yell at you the rest of the show there, Patrick, and we start slamming our fists down on the desks and yelling at each other. To me, I would give it to Beamer if I had to, but clearly there is an advantage on the other side as well. I'm more interested to see the reaction and the scene, I guess, at the end of the game about Gamecock players or from Gamecock players with Will Muschamp, having seen the scene several years ago of Muschamp's return down to Florida and just a line of players lining up to kind of give him a hug or a five or whatever and express admiration for him. That's the thing that I think we get wrong from the outside looking in. We get the sense that Muschamp wasn't very well liked, I think, because he was pretty easy to dislike from a fan standpoint because of the information given out and some responses to the questions. And just the personality was a bit gruff a lot of times. But I think on the inside, it was the exact opposite. I can equate it to like Cam Newton from the outside or the inside. I think everybody that's played with Cam Newton, by and large, has been a big fan, easy to rally around, maybe even a Steven Garcia type, even though he's a bit of a fan cult hero around South Carolina for multiple reasons. But I'm assuming, Patrick, there will be a lot of Gamecock players that will be expressing their admiration and gratitude to Will Muschamp on the field after this game. What about you?
For sure. I mean, yeah, he's always been loved by his players. We've seen it at every school he's been at. He's intense, but I think he genuinely does care about his players, and that's kind of what rubbed fans the wrong way, is that it seemed like it was a us versus everybody, including the fan base mentality in that locker room at times. So, yeah, the players, I don't know if it'll be a line to go shake his hand and give him a hug. I don't even know what the protocol is with talking to another team's coach right now in the SEC or in college football overall, but you're not going to hear anybody talking bad about him, I'm sure. You'll hear them say, yeah, it's a great atmosphere now, but I got nothing but love for Coach Muschamp.
Again, words don't speak nearly as loudly as actions from a player and coach standpoint. It goes before the game. I mean, during the game, I mean to say, with playing time and the whole thing and play calls and the deal, that's when I really get my most information about the confidence level that a coach has in a player or the coaching staff has in a system, a play call, whatever. It also goes to after the game on the field. All right, what kind of exchange do you have? If there are only a handful of players or 10 or so that have the same kind of scene that we saw at Florida, then maybe we can. Then I will jump to the conclusion. I'll be very clear and honest with you here that things didn't end so well behind the scenes for Gamecock football. I'm not expecting that because of what you said, that Muschamp we versus the world mentality. When you're in that locker room and part of that group, it's just different than being on the outside. Speaking of that, let's get to the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Scott says, I'm interested to see how the quarterback situation impacts the fan base's faith in the new Carolina coaching staff, depending on how long it continues versus the production that we get from them. Scott, I hear what you're saying. Typically, I would be with you. This week, though, I think that's off the table because I think there are, if you're a reasonable, logical Gamecock fan, not very high expectations from whoever plays quarterback this week because of just how good Georgia is. Now, if you get a good performance from one or the other, then that changes things. But based off of what we've seen for the first 2 weeks and what we know of both Luke Doty and Zeb Nolan's career, I don't think you can project a big-time performance in this ball game. But you never know. That's why we play them. That's part of the fun. Another text in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Jeff says, my brother's in town, so we're going to watch Clemson. He's a Clemson guy. And then Carolina. Full day of games. Can't wait. Let's go, Cox, Jeff says. Hart says Carolina pulls the upset. Head says Georgia wins by 10 or less. Can I vote twice in the poll he's talking about? No, can't vote twice, I don't think. Well, maybe if you have two different Twitter accounts, at Tim Hill 1075, where you can go and vote on what you think is going to happen tomorrow. We're more than 200 votes in, and more than half of you are saying Georgia wins but doesn't cover. They win by 14 to 29 points. In second place, Georgia wins and does cover by 30 plus. In third place, not too far behind that, Gamecocks get the upset. And in a close fourth place right now, Georgia wins by 1 to 13 points. Interesting results to this point. Patrick, let's set the table for tomorrow as far as the early games, afternoon games, and late games, and then we'll make our picks. Early game that stands out to me, it's got to be a bit under the radar right now. Cincinnati at Indiana. Indiana was a really good football team last year. I get it. They lost to Iowa in game number 1 at home and didn't look great in doing it, but I think Iowa has proven to be maybe better than a lot of people expected. I think this is a big concern for Cincinnati, who's ranked top 10 in the country, but only a 3.5-point favorite on the road at Indiana at noon on ESPN. I know you got your eye on that Virginia Tech West Virginia game at noon as well.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that one just because they're sort of local to me, and there's a little bit of a rivalry there just because they're border states. But I am with you on the Cincinnati-Indiana game. It'll be interesting, and it'll be cool to see. Cincinnati's got some big games this year. I mean, they're going to play Notre Dame later in the year, but seeing them play a Big Ten team who I think it was way too overhyped coming into the season because they did good things last year, but they weren't sustainable things. I think Cincinnati's going to crush Indiana at their home field. I think Cincinnati's would probably be one of the 5 or 6 most talented teams in the Big Ten right now. I mean, Cincinnati, what you're going to see from them put in the NFL draft next year is going to be crazy. They're going to have 5 or 6. They're going to have 5+ draftable players next year, and they're super, super talented. And if Luke Fickell stays there and they're a Big 12 team, they're going to be very good, and they're going to be contending, if not winning the Big 12 very, very quickly upon entry. So I think they're going to crush that Indiana team.
Other noon games I've got my eye on: West Virginia, a 2.5-point favorite at home against number 15 Virginia Tech. Miami, a 6-point favorite at home against Michigan State. So solid noon games there that will lead us to the afternoon slate. Purdue at Notre Dame. Notre Dame just a 7-point favorite there. Both teams 2-0. That's a 2:30 start over on NBC. The CBS SEC game of the week at 3:30. Bama at Florida. Bama still holding solid at a 14.5-point favorite. How do you break this one down, Patrick? Actually, we'll do that in our picks real quick. Let's go ahead and set the slate for you. Also at 3:30, Georgia Tech at Clemson. That line at 28 is what I'm looking at. We'll put a half on it to make sure that we have a win or a loss in our picks. The rest of the afternoon game slate, not real good. You go to the night games. Then you got Carolina and Georgia at 7 o'clock on the ESPN. 7:30 game over on ABC is Auburn at Penn State. Virginia, North Carolina, also a 7:30 game. ACC Network, North Carolina, an 8-point favorite there. Ole Miss and Tulane, we'll talk about that one as well. Ole Miss, a 14-point favorite. The 8 o'clock game on ESPN2. Late game, Arizona State, BYU, battle of a couple of ranked teams there. 19, Arizona State, a 3.5-point favorite at number 23, BYU. 10:15 is kick time on ESPN for that one. Patrick, let's get to our picks. Where you want to go first?
Do we want to end or start with USC? Because I do think we're probably all going to be aligned on that one.
Dramatic conclusion is Carolina and Georgia. So let's flip it and start somewhere else.
Well, let's start with Clemson then. That's a similar line, and it's a huge number, 28.5, but not quite as big as the South Carolina Georgia one. This game is in Clemson.
And Georgia Tech is still Georgia Tech. And to me, this is a no-brainer. Clemson covers.
Agreed. Clemson still has not given up a touchdown. I don't think they're going to give up a touchdown against Georgia Tech either. I don't know what's going on there. Jeff Collins, I thought, had the thing turned around, and it was going to be a year where they could pick up a couple big wins, but Georgia Tech, clearly an awful team. So Clemson's going to smoke them.
All smoke and bluster, I feel like, is where the Jeff Collins era has gotten to. I mean,
I like his pitch, but it's just clearly not working.
I mean, you listen to the guy, and I believe him. But then I watch the team play, and I have no confidence that they can keep it anywhere respectable. And knowing, too, that Clemson already has the chip on the shoulder with the loss, and they're going to be having to make statements to build their case to get back to the college football playoff, which I think they will. Let's be very clear, Clemson fans. I'm not trying to take shots or anything. I 10-3 loss to Georgia in game number 1, and there's no way that's keeping you out of the college football playoff by itself, assuming Clemson is as impressive the rest of the season this year as they've been in years past. All right, game number 2. What do you got? We both went Clemson minus 28.5 over Georgia Tech. Game number 2.
Yeah, this one I'm very excited about. It's actually been getting a good amount of buzz on Twitter, and I've learned a lot about Southeastern Conference history. A very old rivalry in Tulane and Ole Miss. The out-of-conference team that Ole Miss has played more than any other. Tulane is coming to Oxford, 8 p.m., and they are a 14.5-point dog. And I'm taking Tulane to cover that 14.5. I think it actually might. I think the number is actually 14, but we're rounding it up to a half. And I think 14 actually might end up being spot on because Tulane can score points. They scored 35 points against Oklahoma and had a very real chance to win that game at the end. They were probably 1.5 yards short on a 4th down conversion on a scramble by the Tulane quarterback. And there was a push off that was called defensive pass interference on Tulane's end. I've watched kind of a lot. I watched almost that whole game, and I watched a little bit of Tulane last week, and they're a good team. Like, they can actually score points. They've got a couple COVID freshman quarterbacks, and Michael Pratt and Justin Ibieta, I think is how you say his name, but that both are going to probably play a lot in this game, and they're like actually a good team. They're going to score a lot of points, and I think it's going to be a 14-point game. But Ole Miss will win, but Tulane will cover.
I'm glad we're not going the over-under on this thing. 76.5, and I'd still go over. Tulane put up 69 last week against Morgan State, and 35 against Oklahoma. Was really impressive in game number 1. But I think Matt Corral, I think he's on his way into this Heisman race in a big way, and it continues. And Lane Kiffin on primetime TV at night, knowing people are trying to sneak up with Tulane. They brought out the old helmet with the old greenie.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's a great story. I don't have any confidence in Tulane continuing it. I think they might have played their best game of the season in game number 1. I've got Ole Miss to cover here at 14.5.
I'm going to check Ole Miss's Twitter, but if they're wearing the powder blues and Tulane's wearing those cool helmets, it's going to be the best uniform matchup of the year.
Nice. I forget who hit us up on the text line that said that the uniforms that the Gamecocks wear are the only thing that they're concerned about this weekend in the Carolina-Georgia game. All right, game number 3. So we split on that one. We're both Clemson minus 28.5. I'm Ole Miss minus 14.5. Patrick is Tulane plus 14.5. Number 3.
Yeah, let's do Alabama because I'm still thinking about the Auburn game. So Alabama is a 14.5 point favorite going into the Swamp. This one's also easy for me. I think Florida is not very good. Emory Jones has not been good. I think Anthony Richardson gives them a better chance to win, but they're not going to start him. However, he will see time because I think it's going to be 21-0 before Florida knows what hit him. I think Florida is a ways back from Georgia, and Missouri, Kentucky, Florida are in a tier below Georgia, and Florida is no longer in a tier by themselves. They're right there with those other two. Bama's going to smack them.
I agree. I was a dummy and picked Miami to cover in the opener, and I'm not picking against Alabama until they prove me wrong. 14.5, I think, will be relatively easy. I think this is going to be 20-plus win for Alabama. And again, Nick Saban will find something to complain about afterwards. He's got nothing to complain about. That program is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I hope Florida makes it a better game than that, and I will be pulling for Dan Mullen in this battle of SEC coaches that I think is easy to dislike. But Nick Saban, by far and away, the easiest to dislike. But I got to pick Alabama minus 14.5 in this one. That leads us to Auburn and Penn State. Speaking of learning a lot of things about the SEC, I believe the record is SEC versus Big Ten teams in regular season play. It's only happened 10 times, and the SEC is 8-1-1 all time against Big Ten teams in non-conference regular season matchups. But that wasn't with a first-year coach from Boise State. I get it that Auburn's been impressive in their first 2 games, but they haven't played anybody. Happy Valley at night. What's the spread at here, Patrick?
It's 5.5 to Penn State. Penn State's a 5.5 point favorite.
I'll give that away in a heartbeat. Penn State minus 5.5 all day. What do you got?
Okay.
I know you love Sean Clifford. I know you love Bo Nix. That's got to be a struggle for you, right?
There's so many similarities. I think both the quarterbacks have talent. Like, there's no doubt that Bo Nix is a talented athlete. Like, he's very athletic and he can throw the football. He's just throwing it to the wrong team, making bad decisions most of the time. Whereas Sean Clifford, also a good athlete and throws it at the right places, but inaccurately. I think they're both terrible. But both these teams have a lot of talent. They can both run the ball. I hate to say it because we thought he was going to be a Gamecock, but Tank Bigsby, I think, is the best running back in the country. Kid is a monster. And the James Franklin thing has been throwing me. I don't know which way this is making me feel, because all the buzz has been that he's going to take the Southern Cal job and Penn State students are protesting and yada, yada. And I was thinking at first, like, okay, well, they're going to rally behind their coach and they're going to go out there and it's going to be a whiteout and they're going to crush Auburn. But I also think, are they not going to be focused? Are they worried about other things? And I saw this that Auburn hasn't traveled to a Big Ten stadium to play a Big Ten team since 1931. Which was shocking to me when I saw that. But I don't know. Auburn's won their first 2 games like 120-something to 7, I think. I'm going to take Auburn to cover. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think either team is drastically better than the other.
You just went Bo Nix on the road. Good luck with that, sir.
Yeah.
Good luck. All right, that leads
Mike Bobo rushing attack on the road.
Georgia and Carolina. What number are we going with? We going 30.5?
Yeah, 30.5 is good. It's not going to matter to me.
I'm going to take Georgia here to cover. I took Carolina to cover the big spread in game number 1. It happened. I'm not going to let the big number scare me here. I just think it's a mismatch on paper. Certainly would much prefer that the Gamecocks make it a much closer game. But Georgia, I mean, what they did to UAB last week, coming off that Clemson game, they're just complete at this point. And I'm going Georgia to cover this one with a big number.
I will take South Carolina to cover the big number, and I'm hoping that JT Daniels is the quarterback for Georgia. I don't think it's going to change the result really either way who the quarterback is, but I am hoping for the sake of a 30-point spread that if JT Daniels out there, he's more likely to turn the ball over, and a turnover, good return, a blocked kick. It doesn't take much. If South Carolina can score a touchdown, they have a pretty good chance of covering this number. I have confidence that somehow, some way, the South Carolina Gamecocks will get in the end zone against Georgia, but I don't think the game's going to be close still. They will, however, cover. I have enough confidence in the defense maybe they'll get a strip sack or something like that and get the ball in Georgia territory. I don't know what it's going to be, but that number's too big, and I'll feel terrible about myself if I pick Georgia to cover, even though I think they're the best team in the country.
Anthony and Troy also weighing in with their 5 picks today. Feel free to do that on the live video stream or the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. So there is a record of it. The record going into week 3, Patrick and Bill, 4 out of the 10 picks. I'm 6 for 10 so far. Dramatic conclusion of the week coming up next here. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Clear.
Weekdays, 9 until noon.
On 107.5 The Game.
And from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality, shepherdsglass.com. Going to start with a disabled vehicle in Lexington. This is going to be on Ramblin' Road and Platte Springs Road. And we've also got an accident in Richland County, I-77 northbound at exit 5. And a collision on private property on Two Notch Road. Got to be aware of that if you're driving on Two Notch Road.
Sponsored by Lowe's. As a pro, you know you need the right tools for the job. Shop
All right,
the
this is only
chips
going to be like 90 seconds here.
at Lowe's now through September 24th. Save with limited time offers on top tool brands like Bosch, DeWalt, and more. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid through 9/24 U.S. only.
Hi, everybody. This is Woody Wyndham here to talk about Pioneer Tree Service, Guy Gant's company. Guy Gant's not with us anymore, but his girls are the Gant girls. You know, Chelsea and Madison. You know some of the things they do at Pioneer Tree Service? Tree and shrub removal, tree pruning and thinning, tree
Thanks, Hope. I'm a dummy just sitting here talking to you guys. I was saying, Craig, I hear you. I got lucky and got last week's score on the nose, 20-17. So this week I'm going to go 42-10. I think Georgia wins the game. Carolina gets in the end zone. Those of you who want bragging rights for that over Clemson, you can have them. So, but Georgia just too much at this point. Patrick, what about you? You got a final score for us? Still on mute over there as well. We're just completely blowing up technically.
Yeah, 37 to 7.
Okay.
30. The closest, pretty much the
Cover,
closest
huh?
we get without a cover, yeah. Hold him to a couple field goals.
What does that even mean? You think Jim Delaney's going to be in Happy Valley and put in a ton of pressure on Penn State to win? Is that what that's saying? The old commissioner? 29-6 cover, 35-17. Very respectable from Mark cover for Carolina.
Go back. All right.
Probably will never happen again. That is, I hit the number on the nose last week, 20-17. South Carolina over East Carolina. I'm going to go 42-10 is what I'm thinking. Georgia and Carolina will be this week. Certainly hope it's a much better game to watch than that, but just how I see it breaking down on paper at this point and what the Gamecocks do on defense. If they can be much better than that, then Clayton White will have me convinced that Carolina is set up defensively for that SEC slate to be a ton better than we've seen in the last couple of years. I just got to see them do it against a lot better competition than what I've seen so far in Eastern Illinois and East Carolina. Patrick, you predicted a cover, but just barely, huh?
Yeah, I just pulled 37-7 out of nowhere. I do think South Carolina will find a way to score a touchdown and score more points than Clemson did, and I think they will be able to hold Georgia to a couple field goals, and that will be the difference in covering the spread. 4 touchdowns, 3 field goals.
Final poll question results this morning. We asked you what will happen tomorrow night between the hedges of Carolina and Georgia, and more than half of you think Georgia will win but not cover. 14-29 points. That wins today's poll question. Third place, Georgia does cover, winning by 30 or more. Excuse me, that was in second place. In third, the Gamecocks get the upset, and in fourth, Georgia wins a close one by 1 to 13 points. I'm hoping that this weekend, with the way this schedule kind of pans out, I think really, really good. Noon games, afternoon games, and night games. Assuming Alabama and Florida will be worth watching. That will kind of be the key to this Saturday and how good it is for all of college football. If Dan Mullen and company can keep that one worth watching at least for the first half, 3 quarters, then I think we're going to have a good day overall, Patrick, and it's going to be fun. But we've got several to choose from at noon and obviously several to choose from at night as well. I like how you sold us Ole Miss and Tulane. Well done today.
I'm excited for that game. It all starts tonight, though. The Fighting Terrapins against the Fighting Illini. 9 o'clock.
Maryland guy. Unbelievable. Thanks for listening to the early game all week long. Dan Patrick Show coming up next year on 107.5 The Game. All right, live streamers. Fun week, man. Carolina, Georgia, always a fun week. Appreciate you guys. You as well, Craig. Hope, nice work pumping up the YouTube subscriptions. Good job. Anthony, enjoy the trip.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes on Monday, man.
Careful around those Georgia fans.
Hopefully Bill will be recovered and we can get some more gas baggy hot takes. See you guys.